Good evening, race fans. Thank you for tuning in tonight here on the Elite Racing Network. It is time to qualify, and I do mean time to qualify for the 12th running of the Rev Limit Workshop Daytona 500, the first race of the 2025A Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series. I am Zach Evans. Dave Huckleberry producing tonight's broadcast. We're going to be getting right to it because we already have our first car on track. That belonging to Harrison Talon. David Westergreen will be joining us in the booth here momentarily. We'll explain all that here in a second. But like I say, already our first car on track, the number 8 Chevrolet Harrison Talon, returning to the Elite Cup Series first race. We've seen him here since the 2024 A season. To set the stage here for qualifying, we have close to 60 competitors entered for this Daytona 500. They will all get one lap on the clock here this evening. Obviously, as you're familiar with the real world, the front two will lock into the front row for next week's Daytona 500. Everybody will go to the duels, which take place later this evening. You'll be able to watch them right here on this very stream, and that will set the field for next week's 500. Now, our open competitors are competitors who do not have charters and are not guaranteed spots in next week's Daytona 500. They are all lined up to go first in this qualifying session. Talon, of course, being the first of those. He clocks in at 49.446 seconds. 49.446, a time to beat as we get qualifying underway. The next car on track, you see him now. That's the number 41 out of the Lake Norman Motorsports stable, Frank Fody. Frank Fody, a winner in both the Rev Limit Workshop Development Series and the Rebelist Photography Grand National Series here in Elite. Looking to race his way into the Daytona 500. Fody only, we do have some drivers, Frank Fody being one of them, who is entered exclusively for the Daytona 500. No intentions of a full season campaign for this open car, but certainly hoping to take part in next week's Daytona 500. We'll see this time by what Frank Fody's time will be. 49.472 seconds. So Harrison Talon remains fastest. As for those open competitors, 40 cars have charters here in the Elite Cup Series. So those 40 drivers are locked into the 43 car field for next week as we see Josh Robin now on track. So of course that leaves 3 spots in the field. The fastest of these open competitors during this qualifying session will take one of those 3 spots. And then, of course, our duels later this evening, the highest open car in each duel will race next week as well. Everybody else, unfortunately, will have to try again in 2 weeks' time if they would like to take part in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series this season. Again, Josh Robin on track now. We'll see what kind of time the former Grand National Series champion can log here. Second fastest to this point, 49.469 seconds for Josh Robin. Next up, William White in the Abbott Motorsports number 33. William White, if you've been watching the Rev Limit Workshop Series on Tuesday nights here on the Elite Racing Network, he's gone to victory lane 4 times in that series so far this season. Another open competitor looking to take part in next week's Daytona 500. It'd be the first time he's made the 500 if he is able to do so. Waiting for William White to cross the line, and he is fourth fastest out of 4 cars so far, 49.488 seconds for William White. Now, I mentioned David Westergreen during the introduction. This is why he's not in the booth right now. David Westergreen, he is attempting as an open entry to make next week's Daytona 500. I don't know what's going to happen at that point if he does make the show, because I'm definitely not going to be able to talk to 4 hours on my own. We're going to have to figure something out. Nevertheless, David Westergreen will join us for the remainder of this qualifying session after he gets done logging this lap time in the Bat Flip Podcast number 09 out of the South Shore Racing Stable. We'll see what kind of time he can put down. Always looks forward to these super speedway races. So much so they'd rather do them than talk to me, which is, fine. He's gonna have to do really well in the duels if he doesn't want to talk to me next week, though. 49.512 seconds, 5th out of 5 cars so far for David Westergreen. That'll bring up Caleb DeCumer next, another South Shore Racing Open entry. That's car number 59. DeCumer looking to make his very first Belly Up Sports Cup Series start here in the Elite Racing Leagues, hoping it will happen next week around this time. 2-time winner in the Rev Limit Workshop Series. Working through turns 3 and 4 now. And at the line, it will be a time of 49.464 seconds, second fastest for Caleb DeCumer. Not fast enough to make himself the fastest open driver, but hopefully will lead to a good starting position for the duels later on. Next, we see RK Motorsports' Darren Staff on track. Staff made 3 Cup starts last season here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. And coming to the line now, it will be a time of 49.578 seconds, 7th out of 7 so far for Darren Staff. Next on track, Blake Reynolds, another newcomer. And part of a trend we're seeing a little bit this season. It seems like the competition gets a little tougher every year here in the Elite Cup Series. Well, Blake Reynolds, once upon a time, 2019, part of the championship for in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And he's got to try to crack his way as an open competitor into this Daytona 500. In the Channel 199 Sim Racing entry. Working turns 3 and 4 now. At the line, Blake Reynolds clocking in. 3rd fastest, 49.467 seconds the time. And now we turn our attention to Cale Pocock and the Abbott Motorsports Toyota. See a couple of drivers in the waiting rooms. I will bring up first. We will talk to another open driver we will be seeing qualify in just a little bit, Jake Scarborough. Jake, certainly one of those open drivers, a lot of pressure going into tonight. How do you approach this qualifying session? You see some of the times being put down.
Well, right now I'm just watching everyone, seeing what they're doing, see if I can take anything off of, how far you want to wash up off the corners to how tight you want to run it. It's definitely stressful, especially last season. Didn't make it in off time, didn't make it into the duel, but made it in because I was the first open guy knocked out and someone no-showed. So I started last in the 500 last year and finished 7th, so I'm just trying to do that again, I guess.
Certainly a lot of wait and see is now. New fast time, Cale Pocock, 49.405 seconds. Ty, you mentioned going through those emotions, or excuse me, Jake. Ty's waiting. He's next. You're Jake. You got to take part in that Daytona 500 after all last season and had a pretty good run. Does that give you any confidence going into this season?
It gives me confidence, obviously, with it being a one-off. I'm not as stressed as last year, but we'll see what happens. New team I'm running under, Redux Racing. They haven't had a single start in Elite before, so there's not really expectations. They're just kind of like, go run what you can and see what happens.
All right. Well, good luck, and wish you all the best here tonight, Jake.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Jake Scarborough. He'll be trying to make the show this evening. As we see Mitch Javier, he's got to clock in at 49.548 seconds. That'll be good for 9th fastest so far. I'm going to double the size of the booth real quick as Jess Story hits the track first. I'm going to bring in... Oh, I'm sorry,
hello.
Dave. Oh, that's David saying hello.
Hello.
Hello, and then we'll go ahead and also grab Ty McIntosh. He'll be qualifying later this evening. So welcome, Dave. You're stuck with me for the rest of this qualifying session. And Ty, as you're watching this qualifying session, what's going through your mind heading into the rest of the evening?
That I'm glad I'm not in this open bunch, because I was telling David when I talked to him for a second there, I don't really know what he did too differently that put him down in 8th. So it's a lot more calm, not having to worry about it. I know I had to worry about it the first time, didn't make the show, and last year I had a charter, but I wasn't even here to turn a qualifying lap. So this is going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to getting out there and shaking the dust off, especially with the new Toyotas and having a new teammate. So it's going to be fun.
You mentioned that new team or teammates, and how does that all, what are the vibes like going into this Daytona 500 and the start of a new season?
I mean, I think we're all really excited. I feel like we all have a lot of unfinished business from last year. I had a couple good runs, but ultimately just couldn't really put it together, and I feel a little more confident in myself this time around. And for me, I think the unfinished business was getting pro-edged in the 500 last year. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But everybody's in good spirits. Josh is going to be a really welcome addition to the team. I'm really excited to see how he fits in, and he's a good hard racer, and that's what I like, man. If I can rub paint with my teammates and at the end of the day still be friends and work together, that's what I'm looking for.
All right. Well, good luck, Ty, and hope it all goes well for you tonight.
I hope so.
I was just telling Ty, I hope he's in my duel. I like drafting with Ty. He's good at these play tracks, and that's a car that I'm looking forward to seeing out there tonight. And I'll tell you who I'm not looking forward to seeing out there tonight is old Cale Pocock, man. What a fast lap. He has everybody by 400ths, and I don't know if you guys can tell, 400ths is the distance between 2nd and 8th on the times right now, and Pocock has that on P2. That's a wildly good lap.
Daniel Martinez clocking in at 49.466 seconds, which was good for 4th fastest. Jess Story was on track but didn't get a time. I'm not sure. Did either you or Huck hear what exactly was the issue there? Okay. No time. I'm assuming they're going to work to get... He's got to go back in line, and we'll see Jess Story again shortly. Jaden Racine is currently on track, looking to make his 2nd career Belly Up Sports Cup Series start. We'll see what time he logs in before I put David Westergreen on the spot here. Jaden Racine, I
believe he's starting a new lap.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. That was his speed lap. All right. Well, cool. David, buddy, 49.5.
Yeah, I don't know. What Ty mentioned it. We were talking about it. I don't know. Wow, a couple of different blinkers. The advice I received was you want to pull the car out to the seam on the straightaways. I feel like doing that might have cost me a little bit of time. It didn't cost me a tenth. I promise you that. So whatever Pocock did, it did not matter. He's got some time on everybody else, but for my time, that's fine. I'll work my way forward. It is what it is. I'm not terribly good at this single lap stuff in these. I never have been. For whatever reason, it just doesn't translate to me. Maybe it's getting through the gears. Maybe there's something about it. I don't know, but it's all right. We'll go out there and race tonight, see how it is. But I'll be with you guys for one of the duels.
So it was 49.446 for Jaden Racimus, which is third fastest, and then
should be Scarborough, right?
That's who is on track now.
Yep. Did we talk Daniel Martinez, who got 49.46?
Yes.
That'd be the one. I think the other one in there. Did we touch on? Did we touch on Harrison Talon and Josh Robin both having 8 cars?
No, because on my end he was a 9, or I say he. One of those was a 9 car. I don't even remember which one at this point. I'm not sure how it showed up for Dave, but one of them was a 9 car on my end.
I thought we had Robin in an 8 car, and Chris Wright's the 9 car. So, there you go. Right. And Robin has jumped in and out of the series. Zach, I'll let you take this name.
First, 49.465 for Jake Scarborough, 5th fastest. Now, I don't know why David is afraid of saying this name. It's very simple. It's very simple. This is Paul Mikolajczyk on track right now in car 57, another one of those Channel 199 sim racing entries new to the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series this season. First time we've seen Paul, as far as I can tell, in any capacity here in the Elite Racing Leagues, and we'll see what kind of time Paul Mikolajczyk can lay down. How about a 49.453? David, you might have to get really good at saying that name.
Yeah, all right, I gotta try it. Paul Mikolajczyk. Did I get it?
Yeah,
all
that's
right.
pretty good.
There we go.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Gerald. Mikolajczyk. Mikolajczyk. I think that's
foolish, right?
No, that's fair. I'm actually doing too well to do the Gerald. You're absolutely spot on with that. Thomas Coonan on track now, car 68 out of the Abbott Motorsports stable. I do see we have Gavin Hibbs in the waiting room if we want to grab him before we get much further along. He's one of the first charter cars that will be going out in qualifying, and we've nearly wrapped up the open segment here.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody's touching Cale Pocock, so let's talk to Gavin Hibbs.
All right. Gavin Hibbs here as Thomas Coonan clocks in at 49.455 seconds. Gavin, sitting and waiting. Fortunately, you are one of those charter cars, but pretty early in the lineup. How do you feel going into this qualifying run?
Really don't really have a plan for. I really do have a plan for these qualifying. I'm not really good at qualifying here at Daytona and Talladega, so we're pretty much just gonna wing it in qualifying and try to do the best we can in the duel. That's our goal.
And Gavin, you've left Shift Esports effectively, moving to Chevrolet this season in that 95 car with your own team. What led to that decision?
Yeah, it was a tough decision for sure, and I talked to Seth before 2024B that 2024B was going to be my last with Shift Esports. I told him this before. Like, my goal was to just get my foot in the door with Elite Cup just really all the other elite series that's not IndyCar. So, and being partnered with those guys over at Shift really got my foot in the door. And it was a difficult decision to leave a team that consisted of 4 to 5 cars each week to now going down to a 1-car operation for 25. But really excited for this opportunity for my team, Strictly Stock Motorsports.
All right. Well, good luck tonight and moving forward in our new season here, Gavin.
Yep. And thank you guys again for broadcasting as usual.
Absolutely. So that's Gavin Hibbs. He'll be going out on track shortly here in qualifying for the Rev Limit Workshop Daytona 500. This is our last open car right here. Jess Story clocked in at 49.506 seconds. Marshall Stanley in car 53, 49.513 seconds. So that's 15th fastest, and that means Cale Pocock will be in the field of 43 for next week's Daytona 500 as our fastest open competitor in qualifying by 0.04 of a second over Harrison Talon. So congratulations to Cale Pocock on that. Now, of course, we continue on with qualifying. We start with our charter cars. Again, these guys all locked in by virtue of these charters that they've earned through consistent participation and earning points over the course of past Elite Cup Series seasons. Of course, it's hard to talk about somebody earning points and not talk about Ethan Stanley. I mean, just a dominator last season. 13 career Elite Cup Series wins. 5 titles across the various series here in Elite. Still looking for that first Cup championship. Maybe this season will be the year, but swept the Grand National Series 1 year ago. And Ethan Stanley is now second fastest at 49.441 seconds as Jonathan Cutlip will take to the track.
Stanley ran the line that I was running, and look at Jonathan Cutlip. He's also up at this seam on the exit of the tri-oval. He'll probably run that seam down the back straightaway as well. That's the advice I got. It's the lap I ran, and of course my time way down there. So Cutlip and Stanley have made it work, and you can see this 5-car stretching out to the outside of the straightaway here to get a little bit more speed. And I will note, Garrison Hogan is in the practice session, but did not show up on time for his lap. He is one of the open cars. They're currently negotiating whether Garrison Hogan has a chance to knock Cale Pocock off of the current pole and also that current slot in the Daytona 500. I'm not entirely certain what the outcome will be there. Jonathan Cutlip across the line, 15th quick, 49.48.
49.48 for Jonathan Cutlip, who I want to note, I mean, last season wasn't, I guess in that championship picture at season's end, but it's hard to finish a season any hotter than Jonathan Cutlip did. Had 7 top 10 finishes to end the 2024 B Cup Series season. 4 of those were runner-up finishes, just couldn't quite get that win. Hasn't scored a win in the Cup Series since 2023 at Talladega. So we'll see if he can carry some of that momentum and maybe get back into victory lane here in 2025A. Now Ryan Gable on track in the 01 out of Lake Norman Motorsports stable. Another guy who's gone close to a year without a win. Saw him in victory lane at Circuit of the Americas early in the 2024A season. We'll see if he can start the year with a win in the Daytona 500. This time by 49.48 for Ryan Gable. That's 13th fastest.
Gable and Cutlip, 2 guys I'd pencil in as contenders for race wins in this upcoming 2025A season. I really feel like the 2 of them are a little bit due with how fast those drivers typically are, and then of course their lack of specifically winning success. They've both been very consistent, made the playoffs each of the last 2 seasons, but I just have not been able to capture the wins like I think we are both expecting for them to, as Justin Fortner takes to the track in the Little Eagle number 26 entry.
Justin Fortner is one of those guys that you're going to probably hear us talk about this a lot over the next week with all the various races at Daytona in Elite, whether it be because of super speedway expertise or just the patience over the course of a long race. A guy that maybe not always one of the ones you see up front, but come Daytona, a guy like Justin Fortner, he has a top 5 in the Daytona 500 before, a top 10 in the Brickyard 400 here in Elite, and 49.51 for Justin Fortner. Probably not the lap he was looking for, 18th fastest so far, but don't be surprised if that's a name we're talking about a lot next Wednesday.
He was up there in the top 5 with his teammate Ryan Schold late in last year's Daytona 500, if you recall, and it was a big push by Tate Lytle and Ethan Burrell that netted the Pro Edge 1-2 and the victory, but I think both of them finished in the top 5 in that race.
Speaking of guys that always seem to show up at the front of these super speedway tracks, a former podium finisher in the Elite Daytona 500, car 89 out of the Abbott Motorsports stable. This is Brent Jones, always one to watch at these super speedways. We'll see what kind of time he can put down here.
Brent's a guy you talked about patience on these long races. Brent typically a little bit short of temper, but he's got a whole lot of resilience when it comes to these long races. He's always going to be there at the end if that car is still willing to go. And I expect Brent, the qualifying effort right there down there with me, a guy I'm looking for, because if I end up around Brent Jones, odds are by the end of that race, you end up at the front. It's just kind of where he ends up at these plate tracks.
So next on track is car 80, Justin Vandermarl, out of the Fueled Up Racing stable. That Chevrolet, it went to victory lane 1 season ago at Atlanta in our 2024 B event there. His long-awaited first Elite Cup Series victory coming in that race. Good super speedway racer, but the Daytona 500 just has not gone his way. Best finish of 31st in 4 attempts. Still looking for a first lead lap finish in this race. Hopefully that will change next week. That effort starts now. We'll see what kind of time Justin Vandermarl can lay down. It will be a 49.498, 17th fastest.
Vandermarl and Jonathan Cutlip both got off to, and Trey Holmes all got off to a really rough start, all Fueled Up Racing in that Daytona 500 last season, where all 3 of them disconnected from the race. I think Cutlip couldn't even get into the lobby. Holmes disconnected after a couple laps. Vandermarl was shortly disconnected thereafter. They finished right at the back, right? And it ultimately ended up being a very productive and fruitful season for Fueled Up Racing that sees, and we'll get to him later, but Trey Holmes ends up leaving the team. They pick up Jordan Owens, who is a playoff driver. That's a good little result, I think, for Fueled Up Racing. And here's a guy we've already talked to tonight, Gavin Hibbs, and this is a familiar paint scheme, but new manufacturer, new team, solo effort for Gavin Hibbs. Let's see what he's got.
Of course, you talked about in that interview, new team for the Hibbs design effort, car 95. Across the line here, it will be 49.513, just 1/1000th of a second behind our buddy David Westergreen. Yeah.
If Gavin Hibbs is back there with me, I tell you what, that's a good spot to be in. I'll take it. He's a good driver. Here's another good driver at these plate tracks. Kyle Hanshaw won last season's. Maybe not. Hanshaw won a race this last season. I can't remember if it was at Daytona or Talladega. It might have been at Talladega in the ARCA series. Might have been the truck actually at Talladega. Now that I think about it, but Hanshaw got his first elite win this last season, and it was at a plate track. Hanshaw's pretty good at these.
Kyle Hanshaw on track is. I think we're going to get a funny here in a little bit. We'll get there shortly. But Kyle Hanshaw coming to the line here. We'll see what kind of time he can put down in car 46. It will be 49.486. That's good for 15th at the moment. Is my understanding Michael Goodman is on track?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he is on track. It sounds like there was a little bit of miscommunication on when he was supposed to go, but they got it straightened out. He's on track. I mean, what can you say about Michael Goodman? Second most starts of anybody in the Elite Cup Series. Long time, beloved figure here in this series. I think if he were to somehow find his way into victory lane next Wednesday, you'd have a hard time finding a more popular win. But we'll see if that's in the cards for the Do Good Motorsports 44.
I believe he just hit the line to start his lap.
Right, because of the whole kerfuffle with getting him on track. That was his get up to speed lap. We will see this time
what he's got. Now
what he's got.
I'll let you guys in on the kerfuffle. Chad Frankenfield is typing driver's name, insert driver's name here, go, for everyone to get on the track. He's just kind of monitoring it out without disrupting anyone who's on time with a voice communication. In so doing, Chad Frankenfield typed Goody no instead of Goody go. And Goody did not go, for he was told no. That's the slight delay. Goody across the line. 49.4551.
49.551 for Goody no in car 44. That's why they say, when you're using the radios, you can't say whoa if the pit stop isn't finished, because whoa sounds like go, and that's how you end up leaving with 2 tires not bolted on or something.
Absolutely. Here's a new face in a new place. Same number though. Josh Adams worked his way back into the charter scene middle of last season, driving a kind of an unsponsored Ford. He's now picked up a sponsor. He's picked up a team. He will be taking over at Shift Esports. Ty McIntosh alluded to it in our interview with him earlier. New face here with some very powerful teammates. I envision that Shift Esports will be a little bit of a force this season. A little bit rejuvenated, changed teams, got some new sponsors, got a new driver. It's very exciting. And Adams, I was going to say he's one of the pole favorites, but 7th quick.
49.461 for that Southtown Toyota for Josh Adams. 7th fastest, one of the fastest times we've seen in a while, but man, just some really good times laid down by a lot of our open competitors who I'm sure put a lot more effort into putting down those qualifying efforts. A lot less pressure on these charter guys, but one of the better charter qualifying efforts we've seen so far. Speaking of charter efforts, Carlos Acosta's work last season to make sure he was one of these charter guys has to be commended. He put in the effort. Here he is. He's going to be part of this race next week in Car 02. The lead man, the boss over at RK Motorsports. We'll see what kind of time Carlos Acosta can put down in that number 02.
Apron coming across the line. Don't know if that'll keep the speed up. Acosta's down there.
49.53, 24th fastest.
Down there with me. Here comes Jesse Racimus. I do want to ask you, Zach, have you had Inca Cola?
Never.
It's a Peruvian cola, but it tastes kind of like Sprite mixed with bubblegum, and it is fantastic. It wouldn't be, given the description. You wouldn't think it would be, but it is.
That does something for me. I'm not gonna lie.
It's quite delicious. It does have the branding Carlos has got on there. Part Carlos is from Peru, and I visited Peru, so that's when I got to drink Inca Cola. Here's another beveraged car. Jesse Racimus can't seem to get away from the beverages. He's had Monster on that car, and now he's got Liquid Death on it for the 70, a former winner at Daytona here in the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series. This is probably both a pole competitor and a win competitor next week. Wouldn't you agree, Zach?
I would agree, and he is a former champion of the Juicy Spider Truck Series here in Elite. We'll see what kind of time for Jesse Racimus. You already saw his son earlier tonight. Now father Jesse, 49.495, 19th fastest. Son definitely got the better of father in qualifying, but again, probably some of that pressure on Jaden to lay down a fast time as an open competitor playing a role in that. Moving on down the line, we have Zach Rogers, number 1 Chevrolet out of the Mountain Man Motorsports outfit, on track now.
I find it ironic that we just saw last year's Napa car go with a new sponsor. This now we've got a new Napa car over here with Zach Rogers, but Rogers, a guy that earned a charter last season. You talked about it with regards to Carlos, and here's another guy that had a charter, or did not have a charter at the start of last season, missed the Daytona 500 in the duels, wound up in a wreck. This year, none of that pressure. Zach Rogers is going to have an opportunity to run for a championship, and we saw him have real good pace at a number of different tracks last year. I feel pretty confident Zach Rogers is going to be a playoff threat in this very stacked Elite Cup Series field.
49.485, 16th fastest for Zachary Rogers. Next up, another one of the 17 South Shore Racing entries here in the Cup Series season. If you love your announcers with vested interests in their own cars on track and talking about them nonstop on the broadcast, I have good news for you in the 2025A season. This is Chris Wright in car 9, even though the ticker says 49 because the system gave Josh Robin 9. It's a whole thing. We'll get it figured out for next week, I'm sure.
And for the duels later tonight in different sessions. But, Ray Bracey painted this paint scheme, and it's a good one. Got that 2004 Jeff Gordon Billions paint scheme from that Pepsi 400. And we ran with that with Nick Massey's scheme as well. But there's only 6 South Shore cars in the field, and one of them will only be racing tonight. So, there's only 5. There's more Pro Edge cars out there than there are South Shore cars. As Chris Wright times in, where'd he go, Zach? Oh, he's at the top.
He is about as fast as you can go. 49.447 is 5th fastest for Chris Wright. Apparently, you should have taken notes from him. Apparently,
he showed up and asked me what to do, though. So I'm glad he didn't follow my advice.
No kidding.
Nick and Delicato on track in a Toyota, but with a sponsorship from 3 Wide TV. And speaking of 3 Wide TV, let's move Carlos Acosta to the booth, because I think we should talk to Carlos about the car that he sponsors out here on the track right now. And Carlos, Nick and Delicato riding that 3 Wide TV Toyota around right now, but you are chartered in, buddy. How does that feel after last season?
It's such an immense relief of pressure to finally show up on Wednesday and know for sure that you're gonna make the race. And it's a game changer. It's so nice to actually stop having to worry about qualifying pace.
Go ahead, Zach.
No, go ahead.
So Carlos, if you win the Daytona 500 next week, are you going to film yourself spraying Inca Cola everywhere?
Oh yeah, I already have the Inca Cola in the house. If I win tonight, I'll be spraying Inca Cola everywhere.
So Zach's never had Inca Cola. I was describing it to him. How would you describe Inca Cola, Carlos?
I think you nailed it. I was listening to you, kind of like a
Oh, perfect.
It's a sugary type of drink. It's the golden cola. So yeah, it tastes as good as it looks.
That's absolutely right. And between you've got your drivers in the open cars tonight as well. Like you had them last year, Jess Story, Darren Staff, same group that all made the Daytona 500 as we recall. But is there any different plan? Are you going to work to help those guys?
Yes. I hope I'm in a duel with one of them, not both of them. So if I'm in a duel with one of them, I'm gonna be focusing on them, making sure that they get into the race. If I'm in a duel with both of them, I hope I'm not in a position where I have to choose. That would suck. It would also suck if I'm not there to help them at all. So I would like to at least help one of them get into the race.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate it, Carlos. Any shout-outs before we send you off here?
No, just shout out to the crew here. You guys do a fantastic job. Dave behind the scenes, making everything work and run smoothly. So yeah, keep up the good work. Shout out to my drivers, my team, and drink cola.
That's absolutely right. Have a good night, Carlos. Hope to see you out there.
All right, thanks.
So to get you up to speed from qualifying during that interview, 49.519 for Nick and Delicato, 49.499 Mark Revelis, 49.454 for Ethan Burrell, which put him 7th fastest. Now, let's see, is Scott Crump? He's on the clock now, correct?
Yes.
He
Yep.
is.
Yep.
Scott
So-
Crump for 90.
Ethan Burrell is our defending Daytona 500 pole winner. He will not win the pole this season. He went almost all the way up to the wall on the back straightaway. Was surprising while we were there talking to Carlos. Here's a guy that I think might take some momentum from the end of last season and carry it into this season. Scott Crump dominated Richmond, one of the more dominant performances we've seen. Had up into the top 10 a lap down, and 29th, really? Man,
Yeah,
Scott
49
Crump's back there with me.
Yeah, he's 2 thousandths of a second and 2 spots behind you.
I out-qualified Scott Crump. I'll tell you what, I'll take that. And that just speaks to how good Scott Crump is at this stuff, man. He is very good at racing, and especially, he's good on these plate tracks, dominates. That's a guy that I expected to see climbing forward in his duel. Again, I hope I'm in there with him, because that's a guy I would love to latch onto and draft up to the front with. And maybe I missed something. Did Gavin Higgins earn a charter after the season? He did not make any starts in the Cup Series last year, if I am remembering correctly. The one question Zach didn't prep for us.
I amazingly enough, I don't get a leaflet explaining how guys acquire charters. I can tell you, you are absolutely correct. He has not only not last season, but not ever taken part in the Elite Cup Series, so I can tell you for sure it's not from that. And 49.553, I can't tell you that was his qualifying time, which puts him 35th. So
don't let that qualifying time fool you. That's a fast kid. Won the ARCA race on Tuesday at Iowa. He's won some Xfinity races as well. Won some truck races. Might be the defending truck champion. I could be wrong about that. Actually, I think I am wrong about that. But he's good. Fast driver. I expect to see him contending for a playoff and maybe a couple of wins this season. The next gen car has proven to be a bit of a difficult step for some folks. It's not a difficult step for the driver on track right now. This could be a pole lap right here. Matthew Weeks, multi-time Daytona 500 winner, coming to the line. What's his time, Zach?
It is what is his time? There it is, 49.547. Yeah, you hyped him up as a guy to contend for the pole, and
maybe not.
He did not. So a little bit of work to do for Matthew Weeks this evening. It's now a late. Okay. That's usually how that works, and that is how I got a charter way back in the day. We haven't seen that as much lately just because of how many open guys have been showing up in the Cup Series on a regular basis. It's been a while since I've heard that version of doing it, but yes, that is usually how that works. So checks out a late Norgard on track, and it sounds like he has invited a guest in here.
Chris Wright has joined us. That's South Shore Racing driver Chris Wright, as Norgard times in 49.479.
Yep.
Chris, you're P5. What'd you do out there, man?
Just held it wide open, I guess. I don't know. It's a pretty boring session right here. Figured I'd come up here and see how you guys were doing tonight and seeing how this qualifying session was looking from your guys' point of view.
I've got a few guys I'm surprised with their results, including a couple of guys that have just recently gone. Matthew Weeks is way down the list. Scott Crump ended up way a bit down the list as well. I don't know. And Cale Pocock's on the pole by a significant margin, to the point that, what did he do differently that everyone else didn't do,
Yeah, I kind of went back and looked at that after my lap because I was right there in the 44. Great motor. Moved to a new team. They gave us a great motor, David, over there. Got a great engine in that thing. And so we were in there at the 44s with a lot of guys, and somehow we all got beat by half a tenth. We'll have to see what happens with Nick here. I told him what I thought he should do, what I did, how I launched, and maybe some things that I did different, because some guys right now are actually complaining about the track, as you see Nick here getting the green flag.
Tate's lap doesn't seem to have loaded for me. Don't think he technically
No,
made a lap.
there's definitely a conversation.
Interesting.
He's going to be put back in line after whatever happened there.
Nick Massey on track for South Shore Racing in the Shamu Bite-Size Sports number 48. And this is another one of those Pepsi 400 schemes that we've broken out for, at least for Daytona, but we'll probably leave him in there for the remainder of the season for the most part. And Nick's a former Daytona 500 winner. This is a guy that, like Chris, moving to a new team, moving to a new manufacturer, new sponsors, new paint scheme. We'll see if he can move some confidence forward and get in and see how it goes for him this season. I'm excited for Nick Massey.
You better be excited.
Right there, look at that.
49.449. That's good for sixth fastest for
You
Nick
told-
Massey.
You told him right, Chris. Whatever you told him, he did exactly what you did.
I kept
That's-
one little secret. That's how I beat him. One little tiny secret.
There's the boss man, Chad Frankenfield, on the track now. And if there's somebody out here who, one, despises plate qualifying, but two, is going to be 3 wide tonight, it is this driver right here. Chad Frankenfield for kicking the tires, that number 15 Little Eagle car. A little bit different paint job this season. Chris, what do you think about racing with Chad?
Oh man, it's most of the time it's all right, you know.
Mhm.
I love it in the booth when I'm up here on Monday nights watching Chad. You know, we got the Chad cam going on, and you always kind of got one eye on Chad because you never quite know when he's going to be 3 wide, 4 wide, and you know Chad's going to send it. Racing with him is a little bit of a different story, but I think it's been all right. I think he's toned down his aggression just a little bit. And now I say that knowing, you know, I did work the booth in the shootout the other night, and that Chad did kind of wreck himself a little bit there and whatnot.
He
but
sure did. He sure did.
I'm trying to be nice, and Zach's like, you know, yeah, he sure did.
He wrecked himself. Then he got wrecked in an event that shouldn't have been necessarily been like his fault or anything. But John Cutlip joined the waiting room. So Chris, why don't we let you give some shout outs here, and then we'll swap over to John.
Yeah, John's another one that surprised me with how his qualifying run went there too. He didn't run as strong as I thought he would, but I'm sure he will race just fine. We saw him go from the back to the front of the shootout. But as for my shout outs here, you know, we got some new sponsors on board, switched to a new team with David Westergreen. Everybody over at South Shore Racing. Ray Bracey painted all the cars. They look fantastic. Super excited about getting the season started on the right foot and hoping that you know, we can find Victor Lane, Bite-Size Sports, Blue Egg Marketing, Belly Up Sports Cup Series, Chad and Dave for all that they do for us here to keep us where we need to be and showing up to the right places. So I can't wait to get it started, and probably not the last time you'll hear me tonight in the booth. I think for whatever duel that I am not in, I will come up here and sit in and see if I can give any kind of insight or how Chad might have taken it 4 wide and caused a wreck or something later on.
Sounds good, Chris. Well, thank you, and have a good night, buddy.
All right, thanks, boys. Hopefully it's fun to watch.
49.498 seconds for Tate Lytle. Before that, 49.464 for Chad Frankenfield. Now on track, Ty McIntosh. We heard from him a little earlier this evening. Number 35, Shift Esports entry on track. We'll see.
You were gonna say the Shift Esports Ford, weren't you?
No.
Had to flip it. I don't know. I'm gonna call them Fords multiple times. They've been Fords for literally
They
forever.
have been. It is true.
Toyota's this year for Ty McIntosh, new sponsor as well for Ty. Excited to see what he's got this season. I think he's really coming into his own as a driver. It's a young guy, Ty McIntosh is, and he's. I've seen him grow. I've seen him pick up his first win in other leagues. He's won multiple races in the Truck Series. Been a Championship 4 contender over there. So Ty McIntosh, a guy I'd look out for. I think in this Daytona 500, times in 49.47.
49.47, 18th fastest for Ty McIntosh in the Design Ping Toyota
Bang.
Sports.
While Johnny Thomas jumps on the track, I want to bring up Jonathan Cutlip, another one of those painters that is littering this field with just excellent schemes. And John, I guess my first question for you is, what's your favorite scheme you've painted for this 2025 season?
Ooh, it's kind of hard to say. Not too many new schemes this season. Humor's game that came out pretty nice. They're pretty happy with it. I saw you were pretty happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
Wadsworth, he wanted a scheme made, and he likes that one too. He was a little scared of red. It's not his favorite color, but St. Jude's, it's a good cause. He put that in the car for this season.
Oh. Sorry,
Yeah.
Johnny Thomas, P5.
That's a good lap.
P5, 49.446 seconds for Johnny Thomas.
Johnny's always a very good play racer. Got a good lap going tonight, and he'll be starting up front in one of the duels. Doer as well, another good qualifier here.
A couple of guys that maybe could knock Kale Pocock off the pole. John, one more question, at least about qualifying for you. What did you think Pocock did to gain half a tenth on the field here?
Well, a lot of it is just coming down to your line, and some of it is just a gust of wind, and sometimes just all it takes is a combination of both, and you can grab the pole. He did a good job on his lap, and sometimes you can just grab a little bit of a tailwind down the back, and it'll carry you down into 3 pretty fast, and it'll just carry you all the way through the lap.
Well, with that, John, any shout outs before we send you off tonight? You know, and I know you'll be up at the front in these duels later.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun night tonight as we have Trey Holmes qualifying, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the duel. My field up teammates, hopefully we all have a good race tonight. Race EPI for, helping me out with the Road to Pro stuff and all the open races and just, development. It's a lot of fun to race with them through the week, and this upcoming Road to Pro season, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really hoping that it goes well this season. I feel like I've gained a bunch since last year, so we'll have to see how that goes. And thanks to you guys for putting this together so we can watch and hang out and look back on and just have good memories.
Awesome. Well, John, thank you. We appreciate it. Good luck this season and tonight as well. And I look forward to seeing you out there, buddy.
Yeah, thank you.
That's John Cutlip, and you can catch us up, Zach, and then we'll get into it. But I am kind of excited to talk about Trey Holmes before we get to Ray Bracey.
49.463 seconds for the JT's Hilltop Salvage Chevrolet of Dustin the Dragon Doer, and then Trey Holmes in that, I will call it a beautiful car 23. 49.489 seconds for Trey Holmes. And now Ray Bracey in our 972nd South Shore Racing entry of the evening. Of course, that vibrant, you can always find Ray Bracey on track in that green and yellow Ford for South Shore Racing.
Yep. Love Ray. Painted this car, painted the whole team's cars. He's done an amazing job, and regardless of this qualifying lap here, he's a great teammate, great guy to race with. Love having Ray on there. I did want to touch as we see Ray clock in. Oh, Ray on the front row. Oh, man.
49.412 for Ray Bracey. That bumps Ethan Stanley off the front row. Remember, those top two lock in for next week's Daytona 500, provided they complete their respective duel. Ray Bracey, second fastest is Josh Personette, now on track.
What a lap. I really want to talk about Trey Holmes, and I wanted to lead that into interviewing Matthew Weeks. Trey Holmes moved over to Pro Edge Racing this season as Josh Personette on track. That's I think a huge move. Josh Clark ultimately retiring from the Cup Series out of the 28 car. Trey Holmes moving over to run that Toyota in the group with Ethan Burrell. David Tooker, who is not qualifying tonight, he will not be racing the duels either. Matthew Weeks, obviously, in the waiting room, and then Ethan Burrell. That's a very powerful team gaining a driver that has historically been very strong in these Elite Cup Series cars. And I just feel like that pairing is going to result in some, maybe a Justin Wadsworth type surgence by Trey Holmes, where he's just got more information. He's got more, really fast guys you can bounce off of. And whenever you're running with those guys, especially if you already have a strong base, which Trey Holmes does, you can really gain. So let's bring in his teammate. Is now Seth Rawls out, and what did Personette clock in?
49.458, which was 12th fastest.
12th fastest for Josh Personette. Seth Rawls on track. Matthew Weeks, the Pro Edge driver, 2-time Cup Series champion, and joining us in the booth. And Matthew, my question to you, as we just saw Trey Holmes go, what does the addition of Trey mean for Pro Edge racing next season?
Awesome. That's like one of my best friends. I've known him for such a long time, and that is probably my best teammate when it comes to super speedway racing. We've just have this connection at these tracks. So once I found out he was joining, it's like, oh man, when we get to Daytona and Talladega, my eyes are big now. I got someone. I'm confident enough he can push me all the way around the track no matter what. I can push him all the way around the track no matter what. We think exactly the same when it comes to these tracks. So, and he's quick everywhere, and he's getting better and better. And I think bringing him to Pro Edge, he's just going to get even better. So I can't wait. I'm excited. It's cool to have Trey with us.
Yeah, I believe it. We saw when Wadsworth joined Lake Norman last year. I mean, I would say he took a big step forward. I kind of envision that this is the Pro Edge answer to the Wadsworth acquisition, is grabbing a guy with a really strong base in Trey Holmes where you guys can work with him. And, is there anything that, other than obviously you spoke highly of him on the plate tracks, and I would agree, and that's a guy that saves his tires really well. And in this next gen car, that seems to be really important. Is there anything you guys are going to impart on him to help him, be up there with you a little bit more, where it's kind of one of those things where he's been maybe a 10th place car where you guys kind of run in the top 5?
To work on his qualifying a little better, start better, and then the beginning of the run speed. Like, I know you want to save a little bit, but there's a medium right there where you can run a good constant speed around top 6, top 7, top 8. Like, as you've seen me do a lot of times to save my tires. You don't want to fall too far back. That way, teach him to stay right there and then put his tires to use later in the run. Because most of the time, he ends up with better tires than me, but that's just because he saves a little bit harder than me earlier in the run.
Mm. Well, I appreciate it, Matthew. Appreciate the insight on Trey. And we know you're going to be chasing 3 Daytona 500s and 3 championships this season. So, good luck out there, obviously. And you got any shout outs here for us before we send you off?
You guys in the booth, man. Every time I've been a part to join it in the trucks, I know how hard y'all work to do it, man. Shout out to you guys. Chad for putting this together. The qualifying for the 500 and the duels is legit, and this is something that everyone should really try to do at least once if you're not part of Elite. All the Pro Edge guys, welcome Trey. Glad to have him on the team. JV Designs, full-time sponsor now in Cup. Hit my boy up, Justin Benham for paint schemes, and John Cutlip was in here too. Hit him up at JD Designs for some awesome paint schemes. Let's go have a good one tonight. We're gonna try to win one of these duels and get a better starting spot.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Matthew, and look forward to the races tonight, man.
Thank you, man. You have a good one.
All right, to catch everyone up, 49.536 seconds for Seth Rawls, 49.514 for Gerald Campbell, 14th fastest at 49.462 for Corey Abbott, and this is your defending Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series champion, Justin Wadsworth, and that's St. Jude's number 6, and he is 29th fastest, 49.486.
Before he gets knocked off, and I do want to point out Corey Abbott in the Lightning McQueen car. We get to call him Ka-Chow this season. Very exciting. Before Tyler Fody knocks him off the front row here, let's grab Ray Bracey. I stole him from a conversation with Corey Abbott. Ray, great lap, man. What on earth happened out there?
I wish I could tell you, man. That definitely felt like the fastest lap I had ever done, like at the time, but I did not think it was going to be that much faster than the rest of the field. Like I felt very smooth on the input. Everything felt right. I'm just as surprised as anybody else looking at that.
I'm not surprised. We gave you the good motors, like Chris Wright said, but that's awesome. that's awesome, and I'm excited for you. Obviously, you're locked into this race after earning a charter last year, and Fody did not grab pole from you. So if you
468 for Fody.
Yeah. So if you happen to start on the front row in the Daytona 500 next week, hypothetically, what would that mean for you and for this effort to have gotten into this season, with this charter and, put you in this spot?
Man, it'd be such a huge accomplishment. As you said, I got the charter last season, so I have the spot guaranteed anyway. But being able to start in the front row is such a great start to the goals I have for this season. Because this was supposed to be more of a learning season, I guess last season too. But I want to not cause too many problems, but I want to try to make a dent, put my name up there at the same time. So being able to start pole in Daytona is kind of aggressively starting that goal, I guess. So it's pretty wonderful. I'm still kind of like shocked about that. Like, this is such a huge deal to me. I can't believe I got that time. So this means a whole lot. It's definitely one of the things I can brag about from now on. I only have the truck win from years ago that I was able to brag about. Now I got front row at Daytona. So yeah, I can add that to my list.
One more car left. One more car left.
One more car. Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself. That's true. Yeah,
you don't want to get ahead of yourself. 49.536 seconds for Michael Hosek. Jordan Owens, as far as I can tell, the last car who will take time in this qualifying session. That number 16 entry, Fueled Up Racing Chevrolet, working through turns 3 and 4 now, and we will see, is it got to be Jordan Owens or is Ray Bracey indeed going to be on the front row in 1 week's time in the Rev Limit Workshop Daytona 500? Survey says
Owens is in.
49.494, 34th fastest. All right, Ray. Congratulations.
All right.
Now you can say you were starting.
Now I can celebrate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all pulled me up. I was already feeling good. Yeah.
That's awesome. What a start to the season, man. You're starting a duel on the pole too. You're starting duel 2 on the pole.
Yeah,
So-
that's scary in itself, but yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
I make sure you go in the restart zone there, buddy.
Yes. No, you weren't supposed to bring that up. No.
But any shout outs here for us before we send you off after a really good qualifying session, and that's really awesome, man. So congratulations on starting P2.
Yeah, thank you. Just shout out to my South Shore teammates. It's gonna be a fun one. Shout out to my cat who's on the car and the sponsor of my car.
We love
that's it for me. My cat Pushkin, yeah.
Yep. That's one of the better painters in this Elite Racing League, Ray Bracey, and he'll be starting from the front row next week. But Ray, we'll let you go. Congratulations, good luck in Duel 2, buddy.
Thank you.
Let's grab pole winner Caleb Pocock.
Let's
How about
do that.
Zach?
Let's do that.
Caleb Pocock, David in the booth. You were on pole basically from the beginning of this session. What on earth did you do to get such a good lap?
I'm not sure. I ran about 20 practice qualifying laps over the last week, so between that and getting lucky with the wind, I guess that's what happened. I was sitting there most of the session, like with that big 4/100s lead. I'm like, there's no way this is holding up.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and you and Bracey have kind of several tenths on the field at Daytona, which is pretty shocking amount, and it does seem to indicate wind is maybe a factor there, but I don't think that takes away anything from you. I mean, that's a good lap, and it locked you into the field from being an open driver. Tell us about the effort to run the Daytona 500 as an open driver, and then what it means to be on the pole for kind of a prestigious race.
It means a lot because I'm pretty new to this league. I joined this league and I've been getting into the ARCA series, and then I'm going to be running Xfinity, IndyCar, and then obviously I wanted to run the Daytona 500, and I never expected to qualify, let alone sit on the pole. So this is awesome. Big shout out to everybody at Abbott for having me on the team and all their support.
Any questions for Cale there, Zach?
I guess, obviously huge for this effort to start up front for the Daytona 500, but I mean, do you start thinking you're one of those guys that we see on the entry list? You have the 500 in parentheses next to your name. Do you start thinking about maybe I could carve out a little more time on Wednesdays after this?
I was actually considering running for the Crown Jewels or maybe some road courses, or maybe moving up and attempting as an open for the next season. Not necessarily this season.
Well, there you go. There you go.
All right, Kale. Any shout outs here for us before we send you off?
No, just everybody at Abbott and all the teammates. Those guys for having me on the team and inviting me. It's been awesome. It's awesome to be sitting on the pole. So hopefully I can survive the duel and not have to go to the end.
All right. Kale Powcock, Daytona 500 pole winner for next week. Kale, thank you and congratulations on the pole, man. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to go on a short break while we switch over. It looks like I'm in duel number 1, so we'll have somebody else in here with you guys. Hey, well, we're back and we jumped to commercial real quick. Before we bring up Corey Abbott, Zach, do you want to let them know what we're doing here?
All right, so you're looking at kind of a static screen at the moment, and basically the way the qualifying process works for the duels is, I'm gonna try not to go too inside baseball because most of you don't care how the sausage is made here. But basically, the administration is going to have to go through and set the lineups manually for each of our duels coming up. We'll find out what that is shortly. It's roughly odd cars in the first duel, even cars in the second, but it's not exactly that because you have to make sure there's exact numbers of open cars in each duel, so it'll get a little shuffled around. We don't really have lineups yet unless I'm not seeing them somewhere.
We do, but they're
where?
They are in the sorted times sheet on the qualifying page.
Oh, good. It would make too much sense if that was called lineups or something. You're right. Nevertheless, so while we're waiting for the second lobby to open, which will be our first duel, you just kind of get this pretty screen. And while we're waiting for that to happen, let's talk to Corey Abbott.
Let's talk to Corey Abbott. I wasn't on it. Corey Abbott, David in the booth. You got me, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Corey, we kind of, I think we were interviewing someone right when your paint scheme went out on the track, but the Kachow paint scheme is back. What was the decision making that gave us another Lightning McQueen scheme?
I think it was just like overall the general. Everyone seemed to like it, and I thought it was cool. I'm just felt it was right to bring it back.
Yeah, nothing to do with how us in the booth get to call you ka-chow every time we see your car go by on the track.
No, definitely not.
Any plans there for tonight? It looks like you're going to be in Duel 2 as of right now and starting up in the top 10 probably in your duel. So, going to go to the front, going to try to stay in the back. What's your plan?
Yeah, plan is get to the front, hopefully. The past two duels, the past 2 seasons, I've been right at the front, so we're a little deeper than we have been. It'll be a little bit different. Luckily I have a teammate in my duel. I have a Leighton, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully the chaotic duel is first, though ours is pretty tame.
Anything for Corey here, Zach?
No.
All right, Corey. Well, I'm hoping the first duel is nice and tame and so I can end up near the front of it. But, if you get into the 500 next week, or not if you get in, because you are not uncharted this season. So that's kind of taken away from the pressure on you. But for the 500 next week, or presume you get a reasonable starting spot, are you going to make that same style of decision where you kind of want to stay closer to the front, or for 500 miles are you going to try and stay safe around the back?
Yeah, my plan is about pretty much the same. Last 500, we had something with someone disconnecting, and Leighton and I and a bunch of other guys got thrown off the pace. So we spent the entire race trying to minimize the damage as much as we could. So the plan is stay as close to the lead pack as possible. Don't lose track of them.
Gotcha. Well, any shout outs for us here before we send you off, Corey?
I gotta shout out the man himself on pole, Caleb Pocock. He just joined us recently for ARCA, and he decided he'd give the Crown Jewel events a shot. And I don't think he expected to be on pole. I didn't. Man's a wheel, man. I don't know how he did it. I don't know if it's just as simple as the tailwind at the right time, but heck of a job by him to get it done.
I agree with you there, man. So with that, Corey, good luck in Duel 2, man. We'll catch you later, hopefully during one of our winners interviews.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so that's Corey Abbott, and it does look like at this time maybe we are close. I see it has switched from waiting to the pending symbol, and actually it looks like it may have just launched. So, David, we'll let you go. Prepare for the first duel if you are indeed in that one. And Huck can run some commercials, and hopefully we'll be back and you'll be looking at race cars getting ready for our first duel.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked, NASCAR delivered. On Saturday, September 6, 2025, the magic is back. The track that launched the legendary careers of Harvick, Busch, Keselowski, Edwards, and Earnhardt Jr. is now ready to write that next chapter. We're going to introduce you to a new crop of future champions and Hall of Famers. And in the process, we'll create more of the greatest moments in racing history. NASCAR Weekend 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs, the Confluence Music Festival, and now 250 miles of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 2 incredible races, 1 challenging track, a 3-day party of epic proportions. Go to WWTRaceway.com and lock in your weekend racing and camping packages for as little as $20 down. 3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge of your seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs are coming. Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series Playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to WWTRaceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel.
All right, back and looking at Daytona International Speed with this beautiful pixel sunset. We finished qualifying for the 12th running of the Rev Limit Workshop Daytona 500. We've determined the front row. Now it's time to run to duels and set the rest of the 43 car lineup. Duel 1 practicing now will be lining up momentarily. For those who have just joined, Cale Pocock qualified on the pole for next week's Daytona 500. Ray Bracey qualified second. Cale Pocock was our fastest open car, along with being just the fastest car. So he is locked into the Daytona 500. The highest open finisher not named Cale Pocock in this duel will join him in the race 1 week from tonight. When we get to that point, you'll see on the scoring pylon, it's orange, correct, Dave? Orange for our open drivers on the pylon, blue for our chartered drivers who are guaranteed to race next week. Oh, you even gave him a green. That's nice. So, first of 2 duels will be rolling off shortly. One thing to note, per the rules, and actually Chad Frankenfield is going over this now in the drivers' meeting, For those two drivers, Cale Pocock and Ray Bracy, and this kind of mirrors the real life, should you have to go to a backup car, blah, blah, blah. We have the 6-lap rule in super speedway races and elite. If you fall more than 6 laps down in a super speedway race, you are parked for the evening, so you don't have guys running 12 laps down, 20 miles per hour off the pace, blah, blah, blah. If you fall 6 laps down tonight, and you're one of those two drivers, you will start at the rear in the Daytona 500 next week. So there is a little, Caleb can't start and park, but he does need to keep the car clean and bring it home if he wants to start on the pole next week. Just a note. Just a note. Same with Ray Bracy in Duel 2 later this evening. Of course, you heard from David Westergreen, my comrade here in the booth most nights here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. But of course, as we discussed during qualifying, he is partaking in Duel number 1, trying to race his way into the Daytona 500. By my napkin math, he's starting 20th or 21st here. We should see a grid here shortly. I see we have been joined by Mr. Michael Goodman, who is taking part in Duel 2. Goody, how are you doing tonight?
Not too bad. How about yourself? It's Speed Weeks, baby. This is awesome. Love it.
Oh, I mean, how can you not love this time of year here in Elite? So have you decided that people didn't need to hear me nonstop for the next hour and give me some reprieve here? Is that what's happening?
Well, yeah, Chad asked if someone wanted to give you a hand. Hey, it's been a while since I've been up in the Elite booth, so might as well join. I think Matthew Weeks might join as well. I don't know if I kind of blocked that, but sorry, Weeks, if I did. But
well,
yeah.
You are one of my favorite Pixel Car announcers, I have to admit, but I don't know if we've ever actually worked together, Goody. So this is pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, I think this is a new experience for both of us. I think it's going to be a good one here. It should be an exciting show here for Duel number 1. A lot of hungry guys trying to get in the show. Well, here's Matthew. I didn't block
here
him
we
out
go.
of the booth.
There's plenty of room.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room for activities up here.
Heck yeah. And I'm waiting to make good friends with Matthew here so he works with me and helps me get to the front in Duel 2.
Oh, see, those drivers, man, they've always got an ulterior motive. They're always looking out for number 1. Speaking of number 1, lineup for Duel 1 on the screen. We'll get Matthew Weeks here in the mix shortly, but first let's look at this lineup. Cale Pocock starting on the pole for Duel 1 alongside Ethan Stanley, who was sitting second for so long before Ray Bracy's run. Jaden Racimus and Chris Wright make up the second row. Ethan Burrell, Thomas Coonan on row number 3. Josh Adams and one of Goody's teammates, Dustin Dewar, on row 4. Chad Frankenfield, Daniel Martinez on the 5th row. Blake Reynolds and Josh Robin make up row number 6. A little further back, row 7, Ty McIntosh, Ryan Gable. Then you have Kyle Hanshaw and William White, Trey Holmes and Jesse Racimus. Rounding out the top 20, Tate Lytle, Justin Fortner, David Westergreen 21st, Scott Crump 22nd, Nick Indelicato 23rd, Seth Rawls 24th. I was about to say, that's almost all of them. Brent Jones 25th, Mitch Javier 26th, Gavin Higgins shotgun on the field in 27th. Like you said, Goody, Matthew Weeks joining us. He said he might. He is indeed here. Matthew, what do you expect to see here in this first duel?
Some chaos probably. everyone's itching to get back at the wheel, and what I always, in my opinion, the first one's always the one that has more wrecks. Everyone's just ready to get back racing. So everyone has the butterflies in their stomach, a little bit nervous. Some new guys on track too, so I could see some chaos happening.
Huck, it looks like I know sometimes we have some gremlins when we have these set lineup sessions or moving from a qualifying to a heat race to a feature. It appears gremlin with the pylon. It may need a quick straighten out for you folks watching along at home. Just one of those things that happens sometimes with the technology, but we are getting ready to go green here in duel number 1 ahead of next week's Rev Limit Workshop Daytona 500. Cale Pocock, Ethan Stanley on the front row. Any predictions here? Who do we think's gonna win this first duel, boys?
I'm gonna go with Matthew's teammate. I'm gonna go Ethan Burrell. He didn't get that pole like he did last season, so he's gonna be hungry. I'm expecting him to be up towards the front.
I'm gonna say Trey. He's wanting to show out in his new team. You know, new pro edge guy, and he's so good at these type of tracks. So I can see him winning victory.
Well, we are underway here in the first duel. We'll see who does come out in front. Again, looking at the pylon, mentioned Kel Pocock. He is the pole sitter next week. He's got the green background. Blue backgrounds are charter drivers. Orange backgrounds, those open drivers. The highest finishing of those orange drivers will be part of next week's race. The rest of them we'll have to watch with the rest of us next Wednesday.
So, Matthew, I got to ask you, since you ran in the duel on Monday, what can we kind of expect watching these cars in a pack here? I've heard some pretty crazy things.
The side drafting is crazy. Like, you can side draft someone so bad on the right side and slow down the entire momentum on the bottom. The runs you get from the draft is crazy. You just got to take the run. The big checkups cause huge accidents, and the tandem drafts, you can really get locked on somebody 3 cars deep and just push them crazy down the backstretch and go so fast.
Right now, that top line looks like they got a tandem draft going on. They're hooked up, Stanley and Wright.
And they do get hot quick. They've changed something with it where they do get hotter a little bit quicker. So people got to watch those engine temps as well.
Absolutely, those engine temps can be a factor. Another factor as well, that duel, the duels are tonight. The clash earlier this week went long enough that we started to see, we didn't get quite through the full cycle, but started to see some green flag pit stops. We have 10 fewer laps tonight, but pit window wise, what are we thinking here based on that experience from Monday?
They're going to have to pit. I think you can only get like 45 laps max. That's saving in the draft, so they're going to have to pit for some fuel.
So now I'm going to pick your brain even further on Monday. I feel like we're hammering that. but like what would your strategy be here? 50 laps, Matthew. What were you thinking? Were you pitting early? Or are you going to try to wait to see if that caution comes late in this heat? If it doesn't come out before that.
I'm just going to wait for the caution right now because it will come eventually with people trying to get up there and get in a good spot. With how this Cup car races here, it gets insane with the runs and the moves people make. So I'm going to rely on the caution.
So it's easy from what I hear to lose the draft, to get shuffled out. And we might see this one big pack that we have right now with Ethan Stanley leading it. I think he's led it pretty much from the get-go. But even when these packs spread apart, it seems like even if there was like 4 or 5 cars in a group, there's still a possibility that a wreck's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. You got to be really centered on the guy and committed to pushing him, and if just a little bit of slight to the right or to the left, you're going to turn that guy, and then you're going to wreck about 10 cars with him.
Man, should be fun once this starts ramping up. But some of these guys, like you said, those open drivers, there's only one spot up to grab here in duel number 1. I wonder when go time's going to be. We're still obviously very early, but aggressive moves here at Daytona, they could happen anytime.
And let me tell you, the open drivers that we are talking about being in these duels, I mean, just looking up front, Daniel Martinez, a name we've seen a lot here in Elite. Josh Robin, absolutely a guy who could be a threat to win. William White has been so strong in the ARCA series this season. Lots of guys that, could earn that spot, but only one of them can.
Yeah, it's high pressure, it's pressure cooker of a situation, that's for sure. Sorry, Matthew, I think I jumped in there.
Oh, you're good, man, and you just got to put yourself in the right spots. And as I always say, you help someone to help you. That's the main goal at these tracks. You're going to help someone to help you out, and that's what you're trying to do if you're an open car.
And of course the other side of that too, you have the charter guys, and a couple of them up front right now. Ethan Stanley, Chris Wright, as we are 7 laps into this first duel. While they don't have the pressure of these open guys, you talk about helping someone to help you. This is a great chance for those charter guys to maybe work with some guys with the field split up in half. Work with some guys you normally wouldn't be around maybe, and try to build some of those friendships or connections and build that chemistry for next week. Maybe, hey, I pushed you last week. You got to help me out next week.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen in the 500. You can get caught in an accident and no yellow comes out and you're stranded and you got only a couple cars to work with, and it's people you've only worked with, like I said, in a duel a couple times or a little qualifying or practice, you've worked together. So now you're, okay, now I know I can push this guy and help him get to the pack, and we can work together and figure the race out from here.
Now, while it's been pretty tame up front, it is starting to get just a little bit hairier further back. You see the 3 wide there, starting for about Ethan Burrell in the middle on back. And in fact, I just saw, I believe that's Nick Indelicato in the number 10 3 wide TV machine. He decided to bail out and drop to the rear, or at least out of the Hornet's nest to get out of that. Still 3 wide ahead of him around Josh. Well, now it's faded back to about Scott Crump. Actually, it looks like just Ty McIntosh has found himself in the sucker hole all alone, and he's got to fall back here.
There's that potty mouth's going to be going now, getting that sucker hole.
Oh, yes. You got to stay it at least once during speed weeks, and it's kind of settled down now, but unfortunately, it looks like a couple of those Shift Esports guys got the worst of that little 3 wide battle for a lap or two there.
Now, one thing I found kind of interesting, at least it's been a kind of a strategy I've pulled off. I know Weeks has pulled it off before as well, but lagging in the back, I've heard that could be a very dangerous game to play. I heard being aggressive might be a better option for some of these drivers to prevent themselves from losing the draft. Matthew, can you add anything to that?
Yeah, if you're going to ride in the back, you don't want to be the last car in the back. There's as we say that, as Seth Ross kind of gets a little sideways there.
Oh, that will bring out our first.
After the rig.
Oh boy.
First look at the Mark Rebelis replay machine for 2025A. I hold my breath. I hold my breath. Oh.
Yep. Ooh, a little bit of damage. Oh, man.
And what I'm seeing there is Chaz just trying to push Seth, and he wasn't ready for
100%.
Seth to move down. And then once he moved down, he wasn't clear yet. So.
Yeah, I think, like you say, he had every intention of following the 25 car, but just was expecting him to change lanes, and then he makes the move to follow and hooks him in the right rear, turns him into the 13 of Gavin Higgins. And I think Chad's got to come out of this. Maybe he gets a little. Oh, that's actually a decent little shot in the right rear.
No, Tate, no.
Oh, it just kept going. The wreck just never stopped.
He didn't hit the wall. He's good.
No, you're right. He did not hit the wall.
Slide. He's good. He's good.
Trey Holmes getting a little contact there.
I gotta say, I gotta write this down. Did I just hear Chad over the driver's chat say that he was at fault or a bump draft gone wrong?
Tally issue to the 15 car.
He didn't pass the buck this time.
He owned it. Noted. Noted.
Yeah.
We love giving Chad Frickenfield a hard time here on the Elite Racing Network.
Love you, Chad.
He is the league owner, but he races hard. It sometimes leads to moments like that. Is David Westergreen able to squeeze by? And looks like a lot of guys are going to take this opportunity to get that fuel, come down pit road.
Yeah, we should be good to go then.
Yeah, top it off right here, and as long as you don't have the 3 green-white checkers at the end, you should be good.
Yeah. Yeah, a little hairy if you start getting some yellows and you don't fit, but I mean, again, we're only on lap 12 of 50. There's probably going to be some more cautions, especially these open drivers that need to work their way back up. Right now, I think they're kind of minding their P's and Q's.
Definitely. And guys like me who suck at qualifying at these tracks, who's way in the back, are trying to get a better start spot for the 500. So
you and me both, buddy.
Well, and then the new rule, Kel has to be safe because if he gets caught in a wreck and goes 6 laps down, he has to start at the rear for the 500. So he has to maintain up there with everybody too. So it's a whole different ball game now with that new rule for the front row guys.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I noticed on that pit stop, of course, the trick, we see this in real life with these a lot of fuel-only pit stops there because people aren't worried about tires after just 12 laps. They may not be worried after 45 laps here at Daytona. But that meant when Ethan Stanley was ready to pull out, that was when Cale Pocock, who is dropped to the rear in hopes of protecting that pole position, he was trying to pull into the stall ahead of Ethan, and he just basically stopped to avoid even the possibility of contact there. He's like, go ahead, Ethan, you're good, buddy. I'll wait until you're done, and then I'll pull into my pit stall. Again, not a huge deal. As long as he brings the car home, he's on the pole, but definitely lost some time on pit road there. Out of self-preservation.
Hey, that thing's fast. He's got to protect that thing with a bubble right now to bring that thing back next Wednesday.
Oh boy, I love the duels.
and here now, if he's in the back and he, I'm not trying to, or insinuate that he'd be trying to sandbag or anything, but if you lose the draft here, you lose the draft. Not a big deal.
Makes it a lot easier to miss the big crash if you lose the draft. I have to admit.
Yeah, definitely. Or he could take the other way and be like, okay, I know I'm starting up front. Let's go to the back here and work in the draft and see how it feels now and get an idea.
A little R&D session right now for him.
Absolutely. See the field doubled up. It'll be green flag next time by. Restart on lap 14. Ethan Stanley, Thomas Coonan on the front row. Again, Coonan, one of those open drivers designated by the orange background on the scoring pylon on the left-hand side of your screen. Next open car in line, Josh Robin, William White, also in the top 10 at the moment, but plenty of time for this order to get shuffled around over these remaining 40-some laps, or 30-some laps, rather.
It's going to be a fun restart here with Burrell right behind Conan. How did I pronounce that right?
Coonan.
Yeah,
Two O's.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I was thinking either Conan the Barbarian or, Conan O'Brien.
Now, were you watching, Goody, when we went over our pronunciation guide for Paul Mikolajczyk?
Yeah, we were. I actually didn't hear the pronunciation because I saw the name and I was like, oh god, that'd be bad. Oh, Gerald, by the way, was upset that you brought him up.
Were we wrong? Were we wrong?
Yeah, that's true. I was looking at the name and I'm like, oh boy, I am glad I don't have to. What was the correct pronunciation?
Paul Mikolajczyk is starting 5th in Duel 2 later this evening, so you'll be racing against him.
Heck yeah, I'm going to have to learn that in case I need some help from him in the draft.
Yes.
It's little brownie points.
Yes. I'm trying to help you out.
I like it.
Yeah. Green flag about to fly as we get back underway here in Duel 2. Ethan Stanley in that beautiful blue egg, number 91, leading the way.
Too big of a jump, perhaps, here?
Maybe.
Definitely. I've noticed the Clash Monday. He did it too. I think Stanley needs to work on his restart on the plate tracks because I've noticed he does that. You don't want to get that big of a jump because the hit from behind is going to be harder and it really jumbles up that bottom line or the outside line that you're in.
Now Stanley was on the outside to start this race, and he got that outside line rolling right away. Let's see if.
Car in the grass. Oh, we've got several cars around it. I don't know if it's got to bring out a yellow because they are all off the racing service. I saw Brent Jones involved. The 60 of Cale Pocock is one of those cars stopped in the grass.
Huge.
I think he might have gotten away with limited damage, but obviously out of the draft, I'm pretty sure he's last on track at this point.
Yeah.
He is. He needs a.
Oh, was that Justin Wadsworth? No, that is Kyle Hanshaw. Excuse me. Another red and white car. That's car 46, Kyle Hanshaw on the apron.
Man, oh man, tough break for Hanshaw there. Trying to get back up to speed. And then all these guys that kind of just got in that wreck, they separated their... hopefully they can somehow get connected and...
Oh, another car around. Trey Holmes is now in the grass, and that's not going to bring out caution either unless he slides back up the track.
And caution. Oh, boy.
Oh.
Very fortunate we did not have more cars involved in the wreck there.
Yeah, because those cars that had been either checked up or involved in that first incident were sailing by right as Trey Holmes was sliding up the track, and that will bring out the caution. And now we'll get a chance to look at some of what happened. This is the Trey Holmes incident here, and he was...
Oh, he wasn't clear.
He is not clear.
Wasn't clear.
Not clear across the nose of the
Looked
22.
like his car wiggled and he
Gotcha.
lost momentum, and that could have changed if he was clear or not.
Oh,
once he,
there were
went
three
down
wide
for that.
coming towards him too. Oh my
Well, in
goodness.
his mindset, he was taking this big run, and he was trying to jump the gap, get in front of Adams, and lead the bottom. But he just didn't have enough speed to clear Adams there. It was just so close.
It's like he thought of it last second here because he's pretty close to Racimus.
Yeah.
And I thought you could see his car wiggle a little bit when he was changing lanes. I could be wrong.
He side drafts him here. They touch a little bit. He's trying to
maybe
get
that's-
all the momentum he can. And then he's
But at
starting
the
to come
same-
down, thinking he's clear, and he's not.
And at the same time, Blake Reynolds is pushing on that 22
Yep.
of Josh Adams as well. So that's not a case where Josh was going to be able to lift to let him in. He was along for the ride.
Trey did the right thing, just held the brakes. That's all you can do in that situation. You're in for it, because that grass is slick.
Indeed it is. And very fortunate he was able to reduce his speed as much as he
Was
did,
it-
because otherwise that would have been right in front of that is Mitch Javier in the 58, and that would have been a vicious
what do you-
impact.
What do you guys think the pucker factor on the Veer was right there?
9,000.
Holy man.
9,000.
Yeah. It was red line.
Here's what Mitchell Javier saw other than his life flashing before his eyes right there.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
In my mind, you're saying, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead.
Yeah. Like, please stay down, please stay down, please stay down.
Mitch Javier, one of those open cars in his Daytona 500, almost ended 10 seconds off the lead draft with Trey Holmes sliding back up the track.
Yeah, maybe that whole if you lose a lead draft, you lose a lead draft.
Apparently you're not safe there either.
No kid. Wow.
Mm.
Trey Holmes doing that Michael Jordan scheme there. That's a beautiful looking car.
I said the same thing. I'm not biased at all, of course.
Well, right.
But that Carolina blue.
Yeah, I would say, who doesn't like the Carolina blue? I'm not even a Carolina fan. I love that blue.
He is a Carolina fan too, Zach.
Oh, okay. So me and Trey Holmes have something in common. That's good to know. I hold the distinct pleasure, tongue firmly planted in cheek, of still paying for a piece of paper from 12 years ago every month, thanks to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So, and boy, their basketball team is doing me proud lately, but that's neither here nor there. We've got Bill Belichick. That's all that matters, right?
Hell yeah. That, ooh.
Dion's going there, don't you know?
Yeah.
Boy, the reality TV show you could make with that. If Jerry Jones hires Deion Sanders. Oh my goodness.
You know,
We'd be
I
out of
watch-
business. Nobody'd watch Pixel Cars anymore.
I might not race it if it's on Wednesday nights. Ooh, man.
Oh man.
It's good to be back, man. It's been a long, I know it's only a couple of weeks, but still, man, it's good to be back to racing.
It's crazy because the season ends, right? And especially in Elite, we have, we talk about here on the Elite Racing Network, you have the Cup Series on Wednesdays, you have the IndyCar Series on Friday, which usually a different roster, but still. And then the trucks on Sundays, Grand National on Monday. For some of these guys, the ARCA Series, Development Series on Tuesday. Add in maybe another league here and there. We're racing every night of the week, so that off season rolls around. And it's like, oh, thank gosh! I'm so glad I don't have to turn on this computer for a month, right? But by the time you get like 2 weeks into that off season, you start getting the itch, right? You're like, man,
Yeah.
I actually kind of miss it.
Yes, you start seeing it, man. You want to race, you want to get behind the wheel.
Yeah, I always say the off season's like it's short and it's long all at the same time because like you said, for one aspect you're like, man, we just seem like we just raced last week, but then at the same time I'm ready to get back in the car, ready to get back in the rhythm of racing at least a few nights a week. So it's good to be back. I'm ready. Let's go. Doubled up restart here for going back, ending our second caution here of the night. Ethan Stanley still in the lead. Now we have Chris right on top in the top lane in second, and Zach, that was a guy that was working really well with Stanley. Now they're separated, so this could be anyone's ball game right now.
It could, like you say, those two were working very well together. But also what that does is puts a couple of those Lake Norman cars lined up all on the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of Ethan Burrell breaking up 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how that plays out.
Well, to find out as we're going back green here. On lap number 19, Stanley with that big jump again, boys.
I think it might be a saving grace for him that it is a teammate in Ryan Gable in that 01 car that's got to be behind him. He's got to give him a shot in the short going into turn 1.
He didn't take it easy on him, that's for sure.
No, indeed, that'll get Ethan Stanley back out front, maybe a little bit too much again, and he's got to jump high here, and maybe this has got to be a little bit of a team game here, but those Lake Norman cars can control both lines. And of course, that puts Ethan Stanley back with his new friend, Chris Wright.
Look at all these open cars around 5th and 13th. It's going to be like the hornet's nest back there with all those open guys jockeying for that one spot.
Oh, yeah, you gotta put yourself in the right spot right now. Side by side, people are starting to really amp it up, trying to get the track position they need.
And I remember from my one experience as an open driver in this event back in, I believe it was the 2020B season, I remember going into my duel and I literally had a whiteboard with the names of all the open drivers in my duel. So I could look on the reference, the relative, look on the standings page in car and be like, all right, which one of these guys around me do I need to be worried about? And that's kind of the checklist that's going through all those guys' heads right now, whether they went to that extreme or not. And even though it's a little early to be going to the pay window just yet, they're already trying to figure out, okay, where are they? Where do I get a run? Who do I work with? Who do I need to make sure I'm not working with at the end of this race? And like you say, they're all kind of bunched together there from, honestly, 6th all the way down to 13th.
Yeah, I'm sure they got some friends helping them call out those guys. I know we got Dan, Michael, we call him Dan, but I think his name is like Michael Daniel Martinez on iRacing. But we have a couple guys helping him out, let him know, okay, there's this guy's an open guy, you got to be in front of him. This guy's, chartered, work with him to help you do this and that. So it's good to have extra eyes trying to help you in this situation too.
And keep you calm.
Yeah.
Because I've never had to experience the open part of it. Me and Weeks are the godfathers. We've been here since pretty much the whole thing started. So we never had to sweat it out. But having teammates that had to qualify in on the duels here, it's you can feel for them, man. It's a very stressful situation.
Well, you talk about being a godfather here, Goody, as we continue to see Ethan Stanley lead the way, closing in on halfway. If everything goes to plan, you're going to hit that old 200 start milestone here in the Elite Cup Series this season. Does that make you feel old, or what does that do for you, Goody?
It does make me feel quite a bit old, and it's kind of cool being up there with Weeks and Chad as the most starts and laps and miles and stuff like that. But I hope someday I can at least I know I'm probably not going to make that top 5 leaderboard in in a win or lap sled or anything like that, but at least give me one. Give me one, I'll be all right with it. Come on, Weeks, let it happen.
Hey,
Come on, boy.
Yeah. So this is Cale Pocock. We talked about him playing it safe. Well, he is in the fence, going a lap down, letting these lead lap cars by. And boy, that makes me nervous because fortunately he's avoided an incident, but now you really kind of need to stay in. You don't need to start losing multiple laps. And there was contact there with the 25 of Seth Rawls as he almost gets to the rear of the pack. But I mean, yeah, this gives him a second lap down. You can't afford to keep losing laps here. You got to be mindful of that 6 lap down counter, and I think he's got to try to really stay with the draft here if he can.
Yeah,
You know-
he need.
Oh, so there was a lag out. Okay, there we go. Unfortunately, I do see that now. All right, so that explains the situation. Oh, well, here's Josh Adams sticking it 3 wide. He's got one of the shift cars with him. I couldn't quite catch who it was.
Let's see if they get any momentum or even hold Pat. I'm sure we're going to see some guys. Oh, yep, that middle line's going to get a little bit bigger here.
Yeah.
You needed one more car. The 2 cars in the middle don't work. You need 3 or more if you really want to get the going. There it goes. Starts rolling. Once that 3rd car got connected. Now what's helping him is that 4th car up in the lead is kind of riding like the middle outside, so he was getting the draft off him.
Yeah.
Was right there.
Yeah, so that was Dewar that dropped down. He moves back up. So now Josh Adams is in the 22. Ty McIntosh in the 35. I believe that is Blake Reynolds in the 66 behind him. They're kind of leading this lane that's now able to drop to the bottom. So that's worked out pretty well for those guys.
Yeah, they really got that figured out. Now they're on the bottom where they are going to be susceptible to that side draft from that top line here. But Adams really making it work so far, getting all the way up to the 3rd place guy, Chris Wright, right now.
Yeah, Ty needs to stay locked. If he stays locked right here, going into 3 and pretty much through the corner, they'll get right next to the leaders.
So
it
how
takes
long?
A big commitment.
How long until you're locked like this until you have to start breathing to lower those water temps?
I say about a lap and a half.
Yeah, not very long at all. Ty's tight right up there on Adams, trying to get that inside lane moving.
And there you saw him move up a little bit. I'm sure that was a gasp for air, and it kind of broke up and opened about car length between those two. But fortunately, they've kind of formed up the bottom line behind them with Blake Reynolds and I believe that's Daniel Martinez. I'm not entirely sure. Yes, it is Daniel Martinez in the 88 car.
I think he's getting to Adam just a tad early. Like, see, he's backing off, and then he's getting to him. He got to him and 1-2 in the middle of the corner. Here, if you're trying to back off and cool your motor. Oh, good move by Adams to get up there. But you want to back off, cool your motor a little bit, and then get to his bumper as soon as you get off the corner, so you can just push him all the way down the backstretch into 3, and you just carry that momentum through the corner.
So now Josh Adams leading the way with 23 laps to go, and oh, by the way, with that surge to the front riding on the coattails of Ty McIntosh and Josh Adams, Blake Reynolds now your top open guy in the field in car 66.
How about that rookie getting up towards the front? Has a chance to maybe get into the lead with 2 open guys working together right now. Maybe settling between themselves and Reynolds and Martinez.
Good pushing by Dan. It's been a while since he's been behind the wheel. He's took a long break, and it's good seeing him back on track. So that's good pushing.
Yeah. It's awesome seeing that 88 back out here. Is he running full time this season? Do you know?
Yeah, I think he's full time in Cup, and he's took over the 88 for Fueled Up this season.
Heck yeah. Awesome to see Martinez back. Reynolds up front right now, 22 laps to go, still a long way to go. Some of these guys, even these open guys in the back right now, trying to work their way up and 10 for that spot, still wide open right now. How about this potty mouth Ty McIntosh taking the lead? Adams.
Bringing back the potty mouth nickname.
Heck yeah, it never left. And then here, how about this Stanley back up front? That Inside line, this is probably what...
Oh, now
that's
he's
we-
3 wide, though.
Yep, now he's in the sucker hole. But that
Bye.
bottom line, this is working probably the best we've seen. I've seen actually in a while at Daytona.
It's wild. That it seems like every time we come to Daytona, either the packages change or whatever, it seems like the name of the game changes every time we have a race here.
And I really think the bottom depends on the people that are working together, too. Comes into play.
Yeah, got to be very disciplined, and everyone's got to stay pretty tight. But yeah, a little breakaway here on the bottom. Now rookie Gavin Higgins taking the lead here, leading that lap. 20 laps to go, and who would have thunk it? Chris Wright pushing Gavin right now. Oh, he's gonna look for the lead.
And Dustin
Oh,
Newark.
dude.
Who do I want to go with?
Dusty thought, and then he failed. I think he should have went with Chris right there. I think that was the move.
And now he is getting the rear end picked up off the ground by David Westergreen, who I'm sure was probably hoping Dusty would also jump with him because he had a head of steam and was prepared to push Gavin Higgins.
Now, hey, who would have thunk Westergreen right now? Just from 2 laps ago, Reynolds in the lead. And now Westergreen's got that locked in spot as of right now.
I gave him plenty of grief over his qualifying effort, but David Westergreen has worked his way close to the top 5 here, leading open guy with 19 laps to go. And who are we approaching here? Is that Robin?
It looked like Robin. Was it Ford? Is that Chad?
Yeah, it is Chad.
Oh, it is Chad. Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, so he's a lap down. Okay,
And now Ethan Burrell has dropped to the bottom, and he's got to try to go for the lead here with Gavin Higgins providing the push. Didn't quite get the run he needed.
He had a good run, and then Chris went down there and side drafted him and said, "Nope, you're staying."
And stay down there. Now that top line really rolling here. Burrell, and he fell all the way out of the top 10 right now.
Yeah,
No, he
the
didn't.
outside is just so
Top 5.
strong with the side draft. Oh,
Bottom
Trey
line.
makes it 3.
Woo! Got Martinez pushing him.
Here comes McIntosh.
Went all the way to
He
the
jumped all the way to the bottom, yep. He's in front of
Oh,
Ethan Burrell. Oh, contact!
They're rolling, they're
Good
good.
save. Good save.
That was, I believe, Trey Holmes that was all kinds of out of shape in that middle lane.
Yeah, I think Dan got a little bit too much to his right side. Just got him a little wiggly.
And now we are all stacked up 3 wide with 17 laps to go.
It's like shuffling a deck of cards right now in this lineup. Burrell taking that top spot right now, but who's going to lead once they get back to the start-finish line? Here comes Chris Wright again on that outside. They were humming.
Ooh, somebody's on the apron there.
Yeah, Nick said, "I'm not going to be in this crash." He bailed.
And they are shaping up. They're getting dicey out here. 17 laps to go. Crump in that middle line, pushing his way to this top spot. The line crumply. See what line's gonna get moving here next. That's what McIntosh is trying to defend here as he's pushing Scott Crump. Ooh, how about this? The father-son duo.
Oh, yes.
High side in 4th and 5th right now.
Oh, Jaden and Jesse Racimus. Jaden, of course, Jaden being one of those open cars, you know, of course, Jesse's got to do everything he can to get his son into the show for next week. Right now, they're in the right spot.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to talk about, getting that 07. Even though he's not a member of Do Good, obviously Jesse is. So our goal tonight was to get that 07 in the show. Right now, looking pretty good with 15 to go.
Trey just stalled out. Trey and Dan stalled out the middle. Everyone bailed from them, and once you get stuck with 1 or 2 cars, you're just dead in the middle, nowhere to go.
Still People are going to be trying that middle line, trying to get those runs.
Yeah, you got to build a run. I think the move is just back up, build a run, make sure you have 2 cars that are going to be committed with you on that move if you want to really make it to work.
See right now that bottom line forming up, top side kind of falling back. Ooh! Adams pushing McIntosh, or was not Adams. Who was behind?
Yeah. Well, and now Adams.
Westergreen,
Is,
I think.
oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, yep.
Yeah, Adams is now leading the outside lane, and Crump a
didn't
little
get
out
all
of
the
shape
way.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't get all the way to the yellow. He had to get a little bit lower to get that square bump.
So that puts Josh Adams out front. Ethan Burrell pushing him, but Scott Crump getting a good shove there from Chris Wright, and they're going to try to get back out front here, coming to the line for 13 to go.
Side by side, who's going to lead it? I think that top side's going to get him. Nope. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. Obviously, this is only... and this may be 13 to go, 12 to go, but you know those guys up front are looking at what that run looks like coming to the line, because at some point in this race, it's going to be who gets to that line first. It doesn't matter if you're leading on the backstretch. It doesn't matter if you're leading in turn 3. So you're gauging what those runs look like coming to the line as you get closer and closer to the finish.
Yep. Within 20 to go, you're watching every time. All right, I was here at this point. All right, next lap. Oh, a little bit further. Okay, maybe try go sooner or later. You know, you're always messing with it every lap within 20 to go.
And this time it's Scott Crump with the run coming out of turn 4. He jumps up to the high side in front of Josh Adams.
Got to make those aggressive moves if you want to stay up front. See if we can cut down low. If Chris Wright gets a run, Dragon pushes him hard into the corner. Crump was able to defend and stay up front. And man, it seems like Crump always in these spots at the end of plate races seems to run pretty well. But I could be mistaken. It seems like he always gets snubbed to get in victory lane here and see if he can get it done here in the duel.
Well, he does moves like that, and he wrecks himself a lot. Because a lot of guys won't put up with the moving lane to lane, and they just stay in the throttle. That's just some guys' thoughts. Like, okay, you're gonna keep doing that? All right, hang on to this.
Yep. You know, it's the old saying: live by the sword, die by the sword.
Well, I think part of it too, you know, there's definitely a time, I mean, we all have the images in the back of our mind of the old days when they called Dale Earnhardt Jr. the Pied Piper of super speedway racing, because he could make those moves. But I mean, the runs we're seeing with this next gen platform are just so great. Even if you want to check up for a guy in that situation, there's such a speed disparity. Sometimes you just can't.
The car is so different compared to what they were using back then, because you know you're blocking a lot with the air, so that's why Junior was doing that. You know, you jump in front and the air would slow the line behind you. You're doing that. With this next gen car, the runs, like you said, Zach, it's just so massive that you get, and these guys try to block that, and these hits, and they hurt sometimes. They hit harder than you expect, and next thing you know you're wrecking.
Yeah, they'll jolt you out of control just like that. Crump still holding on to the top spot. You know, speaking of those aggressive moves, there's one as we speak, as Westergreen trying to not only get himself into the 500, but why not win his duel? Him and Dragon pushing up on that top side.
And David Westergreen behind us, and Dewar has one of those South Shore teammates in Chris Wright in that 9 car.
Line 9 laps to go.
Working around the
lap down.
Yeah.
Now we got 3 wide. This right wasn't.
Oh!
I seen that move coming. Once I seen Trey lift a little bit, I knew what was coming.
Trey Holmes with the big move. Daniel Martinez in tow. They're going to get out front. And now David Westergreen's got to jump to the bottom in front of Scott Crump.
Man, these boys are hungry. They're fighting for that spot in the Daytona 500. That 88 and the 09.
Oh, Chris right in the wall.
He tried to get to his outside and hit the wall trying to get that side draft.
man, he's been aggressive as of late, and he's showing that right here tonight.
I've noticed that from Chris when we get these tracks. He's aggressive, and more aggressive than a lot of people, and it works. That's how you got to do it. If you want to make moves against the front, that's what you got to do.
Yep, don't second guess yourself, even maybe at times when you should, but that's the way you got to do it. Here comes Martinez.
Yeah, Martinez to the bottom, down in front of David Westergreen. We'll see if he can get the run to the line here. Now he jumps back up top.
Probably got hot, failed to get the momentum from the bottom just to get the lead. Now Trey's gonna stay committed right here. You know, they're good friends. The main goal is trying to get Dan into the race. I'm hoping Trey helps him do that.
They work around Chad Frankenfield. Yeah.
Oh, Westergreen. Now he's going to be on the bottom sucker.
Does he have help? Yeah.
Higgins, but is it going to be enough?
I don't know.
What it has done is made that top line go. We see people shuffling around here, so they're for Trey Holmes and Michael Daniel Martinez. They got some work to do here. Oh, here comes Adams.
If Adams jumped down there, good momentum right there. That's how you do it. You got to jump down there while you're carrying momentum, but their momentum is a little bit faster than yours.
So that puts Josh Adams out front for now. 6 laps to go. Ty McIntosh pushing him in that 35 car on the bottom. Up top, Daniel Martinez in the 88, your highest running open car. Nice. Oh!
Almost didn't clear him there, but good so far. 6 to go. Man, things are getting spicy this early. These last 5 laps are going to be nuts.
And Scott Crump to the front now with the push from Blake Reynolds, and that Blake Reynolds now your highest running open car, second place on the running order.
Oh, he's making blocks, blocking Chris Wright, trying to take that lead. Oh boy.
Oh, correct. DWEST, Stewart.
Oh no.
There is David Westergreen.
Car doesn't look too bad.
It
ain't over yet. It ain't over yet.
It ain't over yet. There's one time at a Dega race, I was like 30th and the whole field crashed, and I ended up finishing like 7th. So
see what happened here. Oh.
Hard to tell there. Definitely Dustin Dewar gets out of shape and ends up going down into David Westergreen, but I'm not sure if maybe something with that push. Maybe he wasn't quite in line with Thomas Coonan. It's hard to say.
Coonan both kind of washed up at the same time. It was weird.
He's a little bit low right there. They touch.
Yeah.
Looks good there.
Yeah.
Oh, they just didn't come down to the middle.
They just kind of.
Oh, yeah.
I think just obviously Dusty is following Coonan there, and Coonan just didn't quite turn as much as the field there. As Robin. Yeah.
Robin was thinking he was going to go a little bit. The guy in the middle Coonan was going to go like below the seam in the travel like you're supposed to when you're 3 wide, and he didn't. And they touched, and then once you touch when you're going that fast, these cars start wiggling all over the place. Oh,
Chad Frankfield getting a piece after the fact.
And what I say with these cars, as long as you don't got no wheel damage, you go in there and fix it, and you're good to go.
But the one thing, I think I just heard Westergreen say he's down on power.
Oh, then that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm wondering, now we are encroaching on green-white checkered territory. How are we on fuel if we get a little too carried away with green-white checkered territory?
So they pitted on lap 12, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think some pitted after that, after the next caution.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And this is our 3rd caution. I can't remember when the 2nd caution came out.
Right.
So it saves a little bit of fuel there.
I would guess it's what I'll admit I can't read those numbers.
Higgins
on my
and
18
Holmes
or 19
look like the best ones in the position.
Right. They definitely have a little bit more fuel in the reservoir.
Maybe 6 laps. They should be good. For
Oh, yeah.
at least a couple of them.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
you can get a little bit over 40 in the race, and then you have some caution laps. Yeah, I
Okay.
think the guys are good.
As long as he didn't get in short fuel or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which pitting that early, I wouldn't foresee it, but
I feel like at that point, if you're pitting that early, I'm kind of like you. You go ahead and top off and give yourself the buffer in case there's a green white check.
Yep.
I always get nervous about that. I always probably go a little bit, knowingly go a little bit more than,
Sure.
like 3 green white checkers, because I don't know why. That I probably cost myself, maybe positions on pit road, but I don't know about you, Matthew. I just get weird about that.
When I'm in the range, it's like, say, if I'm pitting before 20 to go, I'm going to fill it up all the time. But say, like, right there around 15, like 20 to 15 or lower, I'm not pitting. It's like, if we're staying out, we're good.
Yeah, that's true. Just, run the. I can't remember the analogy I was going with here, but run with you're laying your bed.
Yep.
You gotta land it. I don't know where else going with that.
I mean, but when we come to Daytona, I don't know if you think this way, but I'm sure most guys, when we get to this, especially for the 500, everyone just shows up to win. We don't care about points. We don't care about nothing else. It's either we're going to win the race or we're going to wreck the car. One or the other.
Yeah,
So
yeah, pretty much. Especially for me, where it's one of the only tracks I have a chance at a win at. So I don't definitely have that mindset.
So if we run out of gas on the backstretch on the white flag, so be it.
Hey, hell yeah. Hell yeah. You know what? Why not? You know what? You changed my whole outlook on that now. Watch out, here I come.
So 1 to green here for, I believe what it looks like oh no, the race will be extended for a green-white checkered finish. I see that now. So the first attempt at a green-white checkered. I'll try to paint this for our new viewers here with the way iRacing handles the green-white checkered. If the caution comes out before the field crosses the line to take the white flag, we will try again. We'll take a second attempt at green-white checkered. It looks like a maximum of 3 green-white checkered attempts under the rule book tonight. Once the field takes the white flag, crosses the line, in iRacing is incapable of throwing a caution once the white flag is out. The entire field can be upside down in turn 1. It does not matter. We are racing back to the line. So,
and I'm going to fix that for you. They actually updated it. Now, once the white flag is shown on your screen, no caution can be thrown.
So even if they haven't made it to the line yet, once the white flag is interesting.
They have changed that with the last build update, so
I did not know that. There you go.
Because they were having a lot of issues where you're coming to the line, say white flag, and you're not there yet, but a wreck will happen and a caution will come out. So they said, nope, that's not going to happen anymore.
Well, there you go. Getting ready for the restart here. Scott Crump in car 90. Blake Reynolds, car 66. The Coke Series veteran making his elite debut, trying to race his way into the 500. Chris Wright, 3rd. Josh Adams, 4th. Daniel Martinez, another open car, in 5th. Gavin Higgins, 6th. We are underway, and it's a big push from Chris Wright to Scott Crump.
Yeah, no surprise from that. That was kind of what we've seen even on the initial start of the race. Chris Wright pushing a Lake Norman car.
My eyes are going to be on Martinez, Trey, and Ethan. They're friends. I can see those two helping Dan try to make it. Oh!
They're wanting to get up to the front.
No
wreck. Martinez.
That's what you needed.
Martinez out front on the bottom, has Trey Holmes behind him. Can he get out front and race his way into the 500?
Those two, they got themselves cleared from that bottom line to the top, but right now, side by side, Crump has the advantage as we have the white flag, 1 more lap to go.
Scott Crump leading the way, the 88 and the 66 fighting for the open spot. 88 leading the way on the bottom, 66 second car in line up top.
Trey's going to blow that motor. He's gonna pull
Yeah.
that motor for
He's
Martinez right here.
He's gonna push him all the way. Oh, Stanley side wipes Chris, not knowing he was there. That was close.
Not a lot of help.
Monster push from Trey Holmes, but not much behind him, like you're saying, Goody.
Two cars, dude. 2 cars again. Come on.
Oh,
Lead, but the race
Push
is
him,
for
Trey.
second and third. They're jacking for position.
Oh.
oh, the wrecking.
Oh, reckon.
And Scott Crump wins it. Blake Reynolds, highest finishing open car, second overall, will race in next week's Daytona 500 as the field wrecks behind them.
Wow,
I think
what
Trey just got so hot he couldn't push no more.
Oh man, I wonder if his car blew up. That's why he was wrecking there. Holy man.
Yeah, it's like he slowed down and Ethan hit him and then they just wrecked.
Big wild wreck, and congratulations to Reynolds getting in, locking his spot into the Daytona 500 next week. Man, it was a tough break though for Martinez.
Indeed, he put himself in a great position there at the end. It just did not work out. Didn't get quite enough help from that bottom lane, but I'm sure we'll see more of him later this season here in Elite. As for now, Scott Crump celebrating in the tri-oval grass here at Daytona.
Well, that was good, boys. I appreciate you having me up here for this duel. I'm gonna go strap in and get ready for my duel here and try to go park in a victory lane like Crump.
Absolutely. Good luck to you. Good luck, Michael Goodman. Of course, you'll also be in this second duel coming up, and hopefully we'll be speaking to one of y'all afterwards.
Heck yeah, it's gonna be a side-by-side finish between me and Weeks. Stay tuned. Watch this.
There you go. There you go.
Right. See you, boys.
See you later.
And that's what we call in the business a tease there for Michael Goodman, a broadcasting veteran. And there you see the results on the screen. But since he's already in the waiting room, we'll go ahead and bring up Mr. Scott Crump, the winner of our first duel here tonight. Scott, great way to start the proceedings here for the Daytona 500, picking up the win here in duel number 1. First off, that green-white checkered finish. What did it take to get out front and stay out front?
Just pulling off crazy moves, blocks, and stuff like that. You just got to put yourself in a position to stay up there. I think it was a couple times they shoved me out there too far, and I was pretty much a sit and duck. And luckily, I held on just enough that caution kept me out front. And right there at the end, we were pushing at the bottom. I was going to stay with Chris at the bottom, and I don't know, they got loose or something behind me, bad bump draft. So I just went up and got in front of Blake there, and he pushed me the rest of the way. I knew he wasn't going to make any crazy moves because he was just trying to get in.
You talk about the runs with this package, and certainly we see that it's kind of a strange one because obviously you can generate those huge runs and get those big pushes, but if you fall too far back, it seems like you fall out of the draft really easily. Also, with that in mind, how important was it to try and, even early in the race, try and stay up front?
It was pretty important. I started in the back, so it felt like a stalemate for a while. I wasn't really moving anywhere. I made a middle move, and that broke up the bottom line. That got me like one of the first cars on the bottom, so that got me closer to the front. When that first caution came out, it got me about 10th place or so, and then that put me at the top, and I just held the track position from there. Got shuffled back one time. That was because I was behind Ethan, and car started to overheat. That's the main thing. Just watching those temps. I think if you get that car hot, you can't push. So, and then that's when you lose all your momentum. And that's when you're going to go backwards. So, main thing is maintain those temps for the 500 is what I learned tonight.
And with that in mind, of course, now we turn to page 2 next week, the Daytona 500. You'll be starting third. What does that do for the mindset going into 500 miles next Wednesday?
Definitely helps out. I like being out front. I feel like it's a lot better up there than it is in the middle or in the back because more prone to getting in accidents. So, but hopefully we can get up there, stay up there, and hopefully we can get us a 500. But we'll see how it goes, and hopefully get some Lake Norman guys up there up together and have a good night.
All right. Before we let you go, Scott, any shout outs after this win here in duel number 1?
Yeah, shout out to Blake for pushing me, and shout out to my team, Lake Norman Motorsports. Ended strong last year, and looking to start strong this year. So far we're starting on the right track. So hopefully we can keep that going. Get a shout out to my sponsors, Stay Tuned Sports Podcast, and Blue Egg Marketing, and JD Designs for our paint schemes.
All right. Congratulations, Scott. We'll see you next week up front to start the Daytona 500.
All right. Thank you.
All right. That's Scott Crump. And Dave, I'm going to let you educate me here a little bit because I know you're going to want to get into the second lobby so that we can show this second duel. Are you able to give the static screen while you're working on that? And I talk to Josh Adams since I see him in the waiting room. All right. Well, I'll work on bringing Josh Adams here and let Dave work on making sure we can bring you the pretty pictures from the second duel. That'll be coming up as soon as possible here on the Elite Racing Network. But while we're waiting on that, Josh Adams' third place finisher here in duel number 1. Josh, you'll get a starting position pretty close to the front next week. What's kind of your takeaway after this first duel tonight?
It's got me excited for the race next week. Obviously, we'll have different conditions and whatever during the day, but that race, I don't know if you guys could tell just by watching. To me in the car, that was more fun than what we did Monday with the Clash. So that gives me hope that next Wednesday can be pretty good. We were able to take runs and use them a lot better than we could in the Clash. So that was a good positive.
It definitely seemed like you were one of the first guys to start really experimenting with the moves you could make in that pack and learn some lessons for not just the finish tonight, but also going into 500 miles next week. What did you learn? I guess what was the biggest thing you learned out of those 50 laps?
Yeah, I think it's so we had a really hard time on Monday getting the middle to work. I think you just got to find the right guys. It's really compacted Daytona, so it makes it really hard. But I think also you learn who to maybe hang out if you're pretty close to the front, guys that were maybe slowing down the line of cars. So just little stuff like that, and then just seeing who you could pair up with and basically pass everybody. Me and Ty made a really good run on the bottom one time, and both got clear. So just finding the right drafting partners.
All right. And before we let you go, Josh, I definitely want to give you a chance to give some shout outs, especially since I know you in particular, you're one of our guys with a new scheme and a new sponsor on board this season.
Yeah, so I've got 3 new numbers across the whole series. I've got Southtown on this car and the Grand National car. They'll be putting together some blogs for NASCAR and college football and stuff. So glad to have them on board. My new team, Shift Esports. Glad to give them a top 3. Got some pretty decent points to get started too, and then Juicy Spider on the car as well. Excited to give them their first run as the title sponsor on Sunday. So, and then Joe Francis for his logo on the car as well.
Absolutely, I look forward to. Hey, I finished high enough in points. I will be racing Sunday in that Juicy Spiders Truck Series, so I'll see you then.
And right on.
All right, so that's Josh Adams' third place finish here in duel number 1. Congratulations, and we'll see you next week in the 500.
Thank you.
All right, so there's Josh, and we'll go ahead and bring up David Westergreen here, who unfortunately did get collected in that incident and dashed his hopes of taking part in next week's Daytona 500. And if that wasn't painful enough, now he's stuck with me as well.
I would say my company will be infinitely better this time. No, just kidding. I was with the South Shore guys, but I don't know if you guys noticed, I never ever got to draft with Chris Wright. We drafted together one time, and he pushed me to the lead.
And the one time I thought you were going to have a shot at it, then Dustin Dewar jumped down to the bottom in front of you, and you couldn't get there.
Ultimately, I didn't lead a lap, but I led the lane for a little bit. And, it was what it was. top running open car for a while. I thought we had a chance. You guys knew I was there. I didn't embarrass myself. I feel pretty good about it.
Are we close, Dave? Are you in a good spot to bring us live here? All right, well, go ahead and do that then, because I believe Chad is about to get us ready to go for duel number 2 here, as you see the live pictures from the virtual World Center of Racing. Just like that, we're going to get ready for duel number 2 here. And that is not the correct starting grid.
No, Ray Bracey will be on the pole.
I've got it, on my computer screen here. So I'll just read the starting lineup here, and that is the correct starting lineup. Here we go.
Hey, we got it.
All right. So as you mentioned, Ray Bracey, after qualifying 2nd overall, he will be on the pole for duel number 2. Harrison Talon lines up 2nd. Johnny Thomas 3rd. Nick Massey 4th. Say it with me, David. Paul Mikolajczyk starts 5th. There you go. Josh Personette 6th. Corey Abbott 7th. Caleb Pecumer 8th. Jake Scarborough 9th. Tyler Fody 10th. Frank Fody 11th. Father and son close to each other to start with. Leighton Norgard will roll off 12th.
Oh, let me get to the screen here for you. 13th will be Zach Rogers. 14th, Justin Wadsworth, last season's champion. Jonathan Cutlip will start 15th. I look for that 5 car to go right to the front. Jordan Owen starts 16th. Justin Vandermarl will roll 17th in Duel 2. Marker Bylis 18th. Jess Story 19th. And Marshall Stanley makes up the top 20. Then it's Gerald Campbell in 21st. Carlos Acosta 22nd. Michael Hosak 23rd. Gavin Hibbs 24th. And we might only have one more car. 4 more cars. Matthew Weeks 25th. Michael Goodman 26th. Darren Staff 27th. And Garrison Hogan rounds out the field in 28th.
Now I will say, and I might need to, we might have to look at that pylon a little bit, because orange is supposed to be our open drivers. However, there are a couple who were open drivers last season and are still showing as open drivers this season, but are definitely.
I think Gerald and Carlos should not be
Gerald
orange.
and Carlos need to be blue. I believe other than that, we are good to go. So I'm sure Huck will make that fix behind the scenes here in just a moment. But otherwise, that should get you in the right frame of mind going into duel number 2. Harrison Talon is definitely an open driver starting on the front row in car number 8.
Yep. Harrison will be going for it. Johnny Thomas as well. There, Paul Mikolajczyk starting 5th is the second open car. Caleb Pecumer's there as well in 6th, car 59. 3 open cars in the top 6 in qualifying. Those open cars really put in some good times. Ultimately, it will be Ray Bracey. And did we ever get word that Caleb Pocock did not go enough laps down in that race? I don't believe he did to sacrifice the pole. All right, so Caleb Pocock will start pole. Ray Bracey will start outside front row and pole in this race.
And look to stay at least within 6 laps of the leaders.
That's right. Race car off. Ray Bracey on the loud pedal. Johnny Thomas behind him. Nick Massey in the outside lane pushing Harrison Talon. We are green from duel number 2. And that we didn't get to talk about it in qualifying. That Corey Abbott Kachow paint scheme 4th on the bottom in the 21 car. That car looks excellent.
It does look nice. It's got a nice little spec map on it, as it's called here in the iRacing parlance. And Marshall Stanley has immediately decided he does not want to be in the pack. He's going to drop to the rear, which, as we talked about a lot in Duel 1, he was very aggressive with that drop to the rear. And I fear it may cost him the lead draft, which is a bold strategy as an open car.
Yeah, I just did this, and I absolutely was not about to try and find my way to the back of the field. You needed to be in the mix as Johnny Thomas takes the lead from Ray Bracey on lap 1 with the help from Paul Mikolajczyk. We'll get there. Corey Abbott up to 3rd with Bracey leading that bottom lane, and it really seems as you know, I'm sure you guys saw and talked about, and I'm sure Matthew Weeks was in the booth, correct?
Yeah, I had the distinct pleasure of working with both Matthew Weeks and Michael Goodman.
Michael Goodman as well. Both these guys in this duel, and both guys excellent plate racers, fun guys to be around. But they're going to experience what I just did. You can go 3 wide. Matthew Weeks is 3 wide right now in the middle of the pack. You can go 3 wide. It's not always going to work, as Paul Mikolajczyk leads lap number 2. But it can move you forward. But those lanes, man, if the lane bottles up, you go back. If the lane surges forward, you push forward. There's a lot of momentum shifting going on throughout the field. And you can see some guys don't want to be riding in the lanes. Jonathan Cutlip to the middle in front of Gerald Campbell. He's got Matthew Weeks in tow. The side draft's real strong on these cars, though. That 3 wide action can ultimately pull people off of the pack and off the cars in front of them.
And this is a lot of the insight you were able to gain from both watching on Monday night with our clash and obviously partaking in the first duel. And I think that's been really great to hear from you and Matthew and Michael Goodman as we've gone through the evening and get that insight now as we work lap 4. Paul Mikolajczyk leading Ray Bracey and a former Daytona 500 winner here in Elite, and that is Johnny Thomas leading the outside in car 83.
Another 3 wide move by Jonathan Cutlip. Nick Massey just took Harrison Talon and dumped him to the outside. Now it's, I wanted to say that was R.C. Anderson. That might be Garrison Hogan pushing forward. And Garrison Hogan pushes forward to the back bumper of the Jonathan Cutlip machine just underneath Caleb Pecumer. They are 3 wide for that 6th, 7th spot. Pecumer, an open car. He can't really afford to get into any trouble right here. Massey jumps up to the top to try to help his teammate. Cutlip with the push from Garrison Hogan and Matthew Weeks through the middle. Those guys trying to surge forward and control this race.
And I'm glad a couple of things have to mention for our viewing audience. It is the first race for us to a lot of new paint schemes, so a lot of identifying these cars. We'll do our best to help you identify them by, mentioning car numbers as well as driver names. But at the same time, you saw that moment with Garrison Hogan. I struggled with that personally in the first half with Blake Reynolds. Those Channel 199 sim racing cars have the 199 logo with the red, white, and blue, the American flag kind of style to it, and it looks very similar to the Lucas Oil Racing School sponsorship on R.C. Anderson when we see him. He is not here tonight, so I know that's not him, but that's kind of the confusion there with Garrison Hogan that you had for a second.
I appreciate the clarification. It is Garrison Hogan. Hogan has moved forward from last to 15th early in this race. Matthew Weeks on the bottom here. He has moved down as well as Gerald Campbell. They have left Jonathan Cutlip in the middle. It's Caleb Pecumer up in that top lane in that 59 car. That was painted by Jonathan Cutlip. Cutlip's running next to the car he painted. Described it as one of his favorites that he painted this offseason for these drivers out on track. You got Gerald. What's the name of the eagle there, Dave? It is Donald the Eagle on the the Gerald Campbell machine. As Nick Massey drops to the bottom in front of Cutlip, Abbott, Thomas, Pecumer, Norgard, and Tyler Fode all up at the top lane. And you guys happen to, I don't know if you guys happened to talk to Tyler Fode, maybe interviewed him there during Duel 1, but he started way in the back in this race, did not get a good qualifying effort. We don't usually see that out of Tyler Fode at these play tracks.
A little bit of a blink there from Jess Story in that second lane. Car 29 still blinking a little bit as he makes his way out of turn 2, and Tyler Fode drawing that to his attention on the in-race communications. And I think with that in mind, Jess Story did drop to the bottom lane there. Hasn't pulled completely out of the pack, no reason to do so. It's not a drastic blink, but definitely not the situation you want to be 3 wide in either.
I heard about a couple. I didn't really see very many in my experience there. In duel number 1, you guys might have seen more than I did. It was up front. Paul Mikolajczyk leading. Ray Bracey jumped up in front of his South Shore Racing teammate Nick Massey. Those two now surging forward on the outside lane. Ray Bracey looking for the lead from that outside starting position front row. Unfortunately, Jake Scarborough to the back bumper of Paul Mikolajczyk. And Jordan Owens bails out of the pack. That looked almost like a disconnection issue for Jordan Owens.
That something looked very either a disconnection or maybe he overheated. That was a huge left turn from Jordan Owens, and I'm trying to kind of Yeah, he is below 100 miles per hour, just now making his way into turn 3.
Blown up.
I don't think he blew up. It looks like, yeah, he's getting back up to speed now, but I think he may have had a connection gremlin or something and knew he was in trouble and pulled out of the way. And now he's trying to get back up to speed, but out of the draft, up to speed is going to be a very relative term.
I'll tell you what it looked like. It's something that you had happened to you in one of the Daytona races. Looked like a cat jumped in his lap or something. He had to adjust.
Hey, I don't have a cat. The cat jumped in somebody else's lap.
Somebody else's lap. That's right.
That guy wrecked me.
Yep. So Jordan obviously able to get out of the way. Is up front. It's Bracey and Mikolajczyk battling for the lead. Pecumer and Norgard have been shuffled to the outside. Gerald Campbell tries to get up in front of Tyler Fode. That put Fode 3 wide. Almost a big moment there. Bracey leads the lap with help from Nick Massey and Johnny Thomas.
Yeah,
still 3 wide. Pecumer's getting turned off the bumper of Massey. Pecumer in the wall. Hibbs in the wall. They save it. Everyone keeps it green. No caution waves.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at that on the Mark Rebelis replay machine to figure out what happened there. Dave was trying to draw our attention to Jordan Owens again having a moment on the backstretch, but it looks like Caleb Pecumer tries to drop to the middle lane. Matthew Weeks is there, cannot go down there, and that turns him completely sideways in front of the pack. And how this wasn't a bigger melee, I'll never know. That's Gavin Hibbs kind of turned around. Leighton Norgard up in the fence, just kind of pinned in there. And Gavin Hibbs somehow gathers it all back together. And that, oh boy, look at the left front there on that 12 car. It looks like it has seen better days, but somehow no meatball. So I guess he's got to try to drive through it, but I'm sure the steering wheel is not pointed straight.
Yep, a lot of checkup damage there. You see damage on the front bumper of Michael Goodman's car. A bunch of these guys are going to be dealing with damage now. Up front, Nick Massey has assumed the lead. Ray Bracey jumped down to the bottom of the racetrack to lead in front of Paul Mikolajczyk. Massey, I believe, probably was getting hot. He was pushing Ray Bracey pretty effectively there, and a little teamwork communication from those guys allows Massey to lead a lap here and cool off the front bumper of that 48 car. From experience, I was pushing a few different people. You can push for a while, 2 or 3 laps, but if you're tucked up behind somebody, like Johnny Thomas is tucked up behind Nick Massey there, 2 or 3 laps is about the max you can do. And then you have to kind of breathe it. You have to kind of poke out, get a little cool air on the nose of this car. So you've got some time, right, to kind of run the tandem and push away, but that's a limited time. And you need more than just one car pushing, I think, to push these lanes forward, especially when they get hot pretty quickly.
So, of course, what that has done is it has significantly broken up this pack. So you have the top 10 here in the lead from Tyler Fode in 10th to Garrison Hogan in 11th is about 3 seconds.
3 to 4 seconds. They have a group with Pro Edge and fueled up cars. Garrison Hogan, Cutlip, Matthew Weeks, Jess Story, Corey Abbott. Looks like they're in that group. They got about 4 seconds up to Tyler Fode, and then it's another 4 seconds back to Justin Wadsworth, Pecumer, and others that got involved in that wreck and had to slow up even further. So this has suddenly taken on a very green flag feel due to that near wreck. This might open this race up to being a green flag pit stop type of race.
100%. And then kind of the blessing and the curse there, right, is so by breaking up this pack as much as it has, like you say, it increases the chances this will go green, but pretty much pigeonholes you that you've got to pit with the people in the group you're in unless this group of 5 or so cars can close back up. And it looks like they are actually getting a little bit of a head of steam. They might be able to do that before we get to pit stops. But either way, it gives you much less margin of error when that pit stop comes around, because there's not going to be 20 guys you're pitting with. You're going to be pitting with 5 or 10 guys, and if you make even the slightest mistake on pit entry or sliding into your stall, and you lose that small group, you're going to fall back to basically whatever the next group is that comes along.
Yep. you might not even latch onto them. Now, Jordan Owens did get latched onto this group, and like you mentioned, the Garrison Hogan, Jonathan Cutlip group is surging forward. They have cut about a second off of the lead of this front group, but I will note Paul Mikulajczyk just now is starting to bump draft Ray Bracey. I think if the lead two cars are not close together, hooked up and pushing fairly aggressively, the line itself will not move terribly effectively, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. This group also knows they've just lessened the competition a little bit. They can afford to stay single file right here, but if they don't get a little bit aggressive, they're going to get some very heavy hitters caught up to this pack. And while they're here, I mean, let's shout out our 3 open drivers that are up here second, third, and fourth. I mean, Paul Mikulajczyk, elite debut to my knowledge, but Jake Scarborough is a guy who I believe he raced in last year's Daytona 500, but as an open car, he's a good drafter. I've raced against him and with him at a number of different tracks. Frank Fody has made each of the last 2 Daytona 500s as the open transfer car in this dual race. If there's a guy I was kind of penciling in as the favorite in whatever duel he was in, it was going to be Frank Fody. He just seems to get the job done in these dual races. He has really good runs. Here he is in fourth already. He's avoided the first major catastrophe of the night. Excellent start to the evening for those 3 open drivers, but especially like Frank Fody.
So a couple of things to your point there. First off, Jake Scarborough, you mentioned he raced last season in the Daytona 500. He did more than that. He finished 7th in that.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he had a nice little evening. But also, Paul Mikulajczyk, part of that Channel 199 sim racing team, which means he's teammates with one Blake Reynolds, who I'm sure is offering plenty of advice based on his experience from Duel 1 racing his way into the big show as well.
Reynolds was out there. I raced against him a little bit, and I would say, that's a group that I think is going to be pretty formidable this season, and it's one that we're going to have to keep our eye on. We have lost Marshall Stanley to a disconnection. He had jumped out of line early in this dual race, and it appears that has been the end of the night for Marshall Stanley in the 52, so cross one of our open drivers off of the list that will not race in the Daytona 500. And don't look now, Zach, but Garrison Hogan, Jonathan Cutlip, and that group have pretty much caught this front group here.
And that adds to the competition. That's why I was kind of chuckling when you said that, the top 10 or so probably didn't feel a lot of, weren't feeling necessarily a ton of pressure. Because I guarantee you those 3 guys running second, third, and fourth, even if they were able to pull away, they still felt plenty of pressure seeing each other nearby, knowing only one of them is racing next week. But Garrison Hogan's another one of those open competitors, and that's not a guy I want adding to that mix either if I'm an open competitor, because he has had plenty of success here in the elite racing leagues. No doubt somebody that, he's won in the Daytona 500 here. We just, the only reason he's really in that open spot is he didn't compete in the Cup Series last season. So, 6-time winner in the series, and another part of that Channel 199 sim racing effort, and he'll be trying to make his way into the show as well.
Well, between him and Mikulajczyk, only one of them can race next week in the Daytona 500. So that teamwork may come in. I won't say it gets called into question, but at the end of the race, they may have to make some choices. And as Hogan has caught to the back bumper of Jordan Owens, who is the final car in this train, the field has grown in this lead pack. It is from 10 to 15 cars, and here comes Garrison Hogan. Big push from Jonathan Cutlip. Cutlip going to try and shove Hogan up to the top. Who is the first driver that's going to jump out of line and try to block off this big run by Cutlip and Hogan? Matthew Weeks has jumped out there as well. Johnny Thomas moves to the top lane. He wants a part of this action, but Cutlip and Hogan are kind of disconnected right here, and that's allowing that bottom lane to surge forward once again. I wonder if a Tyler Fody or a Nick Massey is going to try to jump up top and ride this train to the front, but no, they're not able to do it. It's now Zach Rogers with the choice to block off that top lane.
Well, you mentioned Nick Massey, and I have to say that's probably a little bit of a sigh of relief for Ray Bracey that you've mentioned his name, because otherwise, with the original kind of composition of this front pack, he was a little bit of a lone wolf as far as South Shore representation up front. It was going to be hard for him to make something happen if he stayed up front through the green flag pit cycle. Now he at least has somebody up there to work with. And honestly, just in general, last season, obviously, he was the only South Shore competitor in the Cup Series. It's probably just going to be a huge benefit to him all season long to be able to work with guys like Nick Massey and Chris Wright and figure out how to really compete at a top level here in the Cup Series.
Yeah, I think it will be for sure. I mean, Ray's led a ton of laps in this race already. That 7 car has looked beautiful out front, but it's worth noting Jeff Green is also part of this team. He is not here tonight. Zach kept mentioning about how many cars we have, and
all of them.
And now all of a sudden,
32 cars.
and then all of a sudden, there's not that many cars in the lead pack for South Shore. But Ray's doing a really good job up front. Massey's kind of bookending this pack right here. Team's doing well, as Garrison Hogan is the car on the charge right now. He's got help from Jonathan Cutlip and Matthew Weeks. That group has been together since pretty much the drop of the green flag, and those guys have surged all the way to the front. Let's see what Ray Bracey does at the front. Looks like he is going to stay in line. Oh, he's going to end up in the middle.
No, wouldn't have done that. Wouldn't have done that.
That's not going to help.
Into the sucker hole for Ray Bracey. I don't know if anybody's got to be too eager to help him either. He's got to probably drop all the way to the back of this pack, and that's got to allow Garrison Hogan to get out front. And honestly, it has completely killed this bottom lane. I mean, just killed this bottom lane. Paul Mikolajczyk falling almost out of the top 10 here. Just
the slightest mistake right there, right? I mean, Bracey left a little bit of lane, and I think Mikolajczyk was expecting to run the bottom as they had before. Ultimately, that does not work, as the top lane kind of draws close, put a little side draft on, maybe checked Ray's car up just a little bit more than he had been before, and all that did was surge that outside lane and stuff that bottom lane right in the dumpster, and now it's Tyler Fode leading it, but they're not even to the back bumper of the top lane, which is currently Nick Massey. So now Jake Scarborough has jumped down in front of Tyler Fode, but this shuffling, it's the kind of thing that can drop cars off the pack right here, and I think the car at the biggest danger of falling off this front pack right now is Zach Rogers, and you do not want to fall off the pack because you'll go all the way 11 seconds back to hang out with Justin Wadsworth.
Yeah, Zach Rogers definitely a precarious spot in that number 1 car at the moment. He's hoping these guys, and they're definitely starting to dice it up in front of him, and that's his best hope, I think, is if he can get just somebody checked up enough that he can latch on, whether it be Justin Vandermarl there in the 8th car or somebody. Just give him some way to suck back up to this group, because otherwise he's got to be in for a long second half of this duel.
Jake Scarborough shot to the lead. Big push from Tyler Fode. Brought Frank Fode along as well. Jess Story has jumped to the bottom lane. He's going to take advantage of that in the RK Motorsports open entry. Try to go around Garrison Hogan, but those 2 open cars of Hogan and Story are chasing against, and here comes pit stops. That's a little bit early for me, and those guys are not going to be in a big pack. I don't know if I love that. Johnny Thomas, Ray Bracey, Nick Massey jumping down pit road early here. I wonder if Bracey maybe ran out of fuel a little bit. He led a bunch of laps on that bottom lane. I wonder if he burned off a little more fuel than he was expecting to.
Still, I don't think that would be... He wouldn't have burned 25. I mean, we saw at the end of the Duel 1, guys were probably close to 40, 45 laps on a tank of fuel. He wouldn't have burned 10 laps of fuel leading.
Well, I don't know. That's my team. I don't know what they're doing. I probably wouldn't have suggested that. I would have suggested go with these guys. So, hey, maybe it'll work out for them. I hope they're making the right call there. Obviously, Johnny went with them. Johnny knew something that they didn't. So,
we'll see.
Smart guys. Chris Wright's on the box down there. He probably knows something. But Tyler Fode has taken up the race lead. Jake Scarborough was his, pusher there. Scarborough is now behind Matthew Weeks and shoving the number 11 car forward. But it's the outside lane with Jonathan Cutlip, Garrison Hogan, and Corey Abbott that's pushing Tyler Fode forward and then has the momentum. And now Jonathan Cutlip with Hogan down to the bottom. Fode drops down, side drafts that 5 car, pulls it back, dashes away and gets the advantage. And here's Zach Rogers, who's just fresh off pit road. But Rogers was too far back to latch on to that triumvirate of Bracey, Massey, and Johnny Thomas, and they are drafting together. I guess their hope is that they can make more time than this group is running double file.
Well, I heard some talk along those lines earlier in the week. I think it was even Matthew Weeks on the Monday broadcast, and that with 4 or 5 cars you can make that work. I fear they needed 1 or 2 more cars to make that work, but at least they have 3, and it wasn't 1 or 2. It wasn't just the South Shore 2-0. We'll see how it works out, but I don't think it's an outlandish strategy, but I do think they probably need 1 or 2 more cars to make that work based on what we've heard from other guys during the week. We'll see, though, as it stands right now. Jonathan Cutlip, Garrison Hogan battling up front as they cross the line, 22 laps to go.
I'm taking a look at the scoring there. They are making up a little bit of time. Now, it's not a lot of time, and time has kind of fallen off, so they might have had to switch with someone, the pusher getting hot, etc. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, this front group is not going to have to take as much fuel during their pit stop because they will have stayed out longer. That's another piece of the puzzle where your time on pit road much more limited. The longer you run, the less fuel you have to put in. So, Tyler Fode, Garrison Hogan, Jonathan Cutlip, these guys are going to fill up very little fuel, just enough to get them to the end, maybe with a overtime as well in the mix. So, yeah, I mean,
it's always a tough balance with the green flag pit stop, because if you pit with too few cars, you don't draft well when you get back on track. If you pit with too many cars, then you all start kind of stacking each other up on pit entry, and you hope it's just a stack up. It's not actual contact and spinning people out coming on the pit road or whatever the case may be. It's really hard to find that balance, and honestly, it kind of changes from car to car or even sometimes season to season.
The adventure that is getting onto pit road is mitigated when you only come down with 2 or 3 cars, but you also end up, if you have more cars, being able to judge your distance to pit road on those other cars. So if I'm coming to pit road, 3rd or 4th in line, I'm able to make up ground on the guys that are in front of me if I get a big group pitting in front of me, because I can tell where they're at, where they're going to stop for pit road. And then if I do that, I can usually make up a little bit of time that way, especially on these play tracks.
I noticed that time Tyler Fode and Justin Vandermarl dropping to the bottom. Now, obviously, that's where most of the cars are, but I'm wondering, is it chicken or egg? Are they dropping to the bottom because that's where all the cars are and that's where all the speed is? Or are they dropping to the bottom because they have thoughts of pitting? Now, obviously, Tyler Fode has already proved me an idiot. He jumps immediately up to the middle lane to push his father, Frank Fode. But I'm curious if maybe for some of the others, if they aren't starting to eyeball pit entry.
I think they are. I had 34 or 35 laps in my tank in Duel 1 typically, and then when you're riding in the pack, you're typically making more than that in terms of fuel mileage. But these guys have kind of been wide open the whole time. There's only 15 cars in the pack. You need more fuel to keep that momentum up. So my assumption is they're pitting very soon, probably. I've noticed the first group that pitted has lost about a second to this group, and then this group's also going to have less fuel to put in. So my assumption is that the early group that pitted, it's not going to work out for them. I think this group right here is going to retain the lead by a fairly significant margin.
Well, the good news for Ray Bracey there is it doesn't matter. As long as he stays within 6 laps of the leaders, he's going to start second next week.
That's right. So, good for... It works for them, and they tried something. You'll love to see it, but ultimately it does, I think, is going to fall to the wayside. I want to give a shout out to Justin Vandermarl running in 5th right here. That is our Atlanta winner from last season at one of these similar plate tracks, as we are also flashing up that Caleb Kumer got a tally for that early incident in which he spun off the front bumper of Matthew Weeks. But Vandermarl ran really well there at Atlanta, kind of led the whole race, led up front, but he was very much working in tandem with his teammates at Fueled Up Racing. And up front, what I'm seeing is some very good teamwork from Jonathan Cutlip to Garrison Hogan. That group has very much worked together. Hogan has clearly latched onto those Fueled Up cars. I believe Hogan used to run for Fueled Up as well. So it's a team he knows very well. It's a relationship they've had that's very established. I think Vandermarl can get up here and work with those 2 leaders right now and maybe after this pit stop, Vandermarl can try to make some moves and defend what is a really good first win.
No.
No.
We're good.
Here, just watching the single file train here. After Vandermarl, it is Frank Fody, Tyler Fody, Gerald Campbell, Jess Story, and Corey Abbott in the top 10. To round out this pack, it is Mikolajczyk. It's going to be hard to just rip that one off without reading it. Josh Personette off pit road. He has made his pit stop, but you can see what pitting just by yourself is going to net you. It's going to fall back pretty readily here.
And we probably should take a moment to mention, since I failed to do so during the first deal when it came up, thanks to Chad Frankenfield. But we should go over the tally system, since you hear that term, and we may have some new viewers for the new season. And basically, when we refer to a tally, that is basically the Elite Racing League's way of saying, hey, we believe you are at fault for this incident. In the first instance of a tally, it's really just a warning. It's effectively saying, hey, you did that, just so you know. If you receive a second tally within a race, then you are parked for the evening. You have the option to appeal it, but then if you get a third one, you're definitely parked. It doesn't matter if you appeal or not. Ideally, you don't want to get into that situation. Also, these tallies are accumulated throughout the season, and there can be points penalties if you, over a series of races, get pinged with too many tallies. But it's basically just the incident deterrent system here in the Elite Racing League. So, like I say, really just a warning there for Caleb Pecumer at the moment, but certainly not a situation where he wants to continue accruing those as the season. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that thought. No, he's not one of our 500 guys. So yeah, he doesn't want to accrue those moving forward.
No, Pecumer doesn't. So he is running the full season, but obviously I think qualifying for the early season races is going to be rather difficult. It's going to be a bit cutthroat, as we're seeing already tonight. And you can see just how we have 4 open cars in the top 10 and one in 11. So 5 of this 11 car pack are those open cars. Guys who need to finish in this top group in order to race their way into the Daytona 500 next week. And, like you said, you don't want to be causing incidents. You don't want to be accumulating those tallies. Obviously, the first tally of the season was generated by Chad Frankenfield, which isn't it's not the example, but it is the note, right? That's just the kind of thing that happens. And, with that, you can see that will happen, right? Over the course of the season, people are going to get into each other. This is racing. It's going to happen. It happens to Caleb there. He cut across Weeks' nose in the middle of the corner. The incident was caused. It caused some pretty significant damage to a number of different cars. Ultimately did not draw a caution, but even still, that can result in a tally being called. But it's always those deemed at fault for an on-track incident is that tally system.
And not every incident results in a tally. We did have, I believe it was the second caution in our first deal was deemed a racing incident, and nobody was assigned a tally. Everybody continued. Well, I say continues on. Not necessarily. Yeah. But nevertheless, that's kind of how that works here in Elite. Obviously, different leagues have different rule sets and systems, but that's how things go here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series and across the Elite Stock Car Series banner. The rules are different on the IndyCar Series on Thursday night, which understandable. They have open wheels and all of that, so they need a little bit stronger deterrent to prevent incidents on those sides because they are so much more punishing for the cars. But that's how it goes here in the Cup Series.
That's right. These guys have to be getting ready to pit.
I would think, right? My goodness.
I sure think so. 39 laps on a tank of fuel. I was thinking you could maybe get up to 40. We pitted and were close on lap about 15. this is a fairly impressive run by this group, and the second group hasn't pitted either. It's not like Justin Wadsworth and Caleb Becumer have dropped down pit road. I mean, that everybody has been able to stay out on their tank of fuel at the moment. So the question is, how long do they go? I'm feeling like it's happening soon, our pit stop, but we'll see.
The number Matthew Weeks gave us in Duel 1, I believe, was 40 to 45. So we're in that window now. But that's
Carborough's
I'm
pitting.
seeing 9,000 pitting in messages in the chat right now. So
It
business
must be now.
is about to pick up on pit road.
They must be doing it now. Off
Let's
turn
see.
4. Here they come. The whole
That's
group down
everybody.
pit road.
That is all of them. Except, somebody stayed out. Was that Jordan? That might have been
It was
Jordan.
Zach. It was Zach Rogers.
Oh, Zach
Rogers stayed out. He had already pitted.
Yes.
Here comes everybody. Make sure you don't slide through your box. Make
Oh,
sure
we
you
got
hit
one.
the box.
We got one around
Frank.
that Frank Cody.
No.
He got clipped. He got clipped in the right rear by somebody trying to pull into their stall, and that is a heartbreaker for, as you mentioned, a guy. Yeah, that was almost a heartbreaker for Jonathan Cutlip too. But what a horrific break for Frank Fody.
Oh. He got all the way out in the grass too. Who got him? It was Vandermarl got him.
I think that was Vandermarl, but so this has got to be a case. Yeah, there's got to be some consternation across the board there, because the guys that were on the inside are guys ask why they got turned across, but just Vandermarl's got to say, why weren't y'all in the outside lane? That's kind of just what happens when you, that's like I was talking about, when you pit with 15 guys like that, sometimes those things happen, and they got stacked up, fanned out 2 or 3 wide on pit road when you really don't want to be in that situation, and nobody was willing to give up anything on this green flag pit stop with a potentially a good starting position or even a spot in the 500 on the line.
Yeah. So up in the lead right now is Mark Rabilis. Carlos Acosta is currently second. Michael Hosak currently third. The lead group is just behind them on the ticker. It will be consisting of Garrison Hogan, Matthew Weeks, Jake Scarborough, Tyler Fody, and Gerald Campbell. Jess Story might be off the back of that. We'll see. Yeah, Gerald and Jess have both fallen off the back of that lead pack, which turns them over to the triumvirate that pitted early, as here comes Rabilis, Acosta, and Hosak, of Johnny Thomas, Ray Bracey, and Nick Massey. So that group is going to make up some time, but I think they cost themselves a chance of the win by staying out. Or by pitting early.
Looking back, yeah, it looks like Darren Staff was speeding on pit road as well, so he's going to have to come back. I think he's got a drive-through headed his way in car 55. He is indeed off the racing surface there, and so that's got to be a tough break for another open competitor.
That boils it down effectively to Garrison Hogan and Jake Scarborough fighting for that open spot. As this lead pack has dissipated with the pit stop. It's kind of exactly what we saw in last year's Daytona 500. An early near-miss incident winds up keeping this race green for a lot longer than maybe it should have been. And it boils the pack down to just a couple of cars, and lo and behold, of course, there's Pro Edge Toyota up in the mix there. But this time it's Jonathan Cutlip leading the way over Garrison Hogan, Matthew Weeks, Jake Scarborough, and Tyler Fody. This group of 5 probably going to decide the win amongst themselves. Then there's a group of 2 between Jess Story and Gerald Campbell. They also have Jordan Owens to draft with. And then about 2 seconds behind them, that group was 5 seconds behind the lead. 2 seconds behind them and gaining is Johnny Thomas, Nick Massey, and Ray Bracey. Corey Abbott, Paul Mikolajczyk, Justin Vandermarl, Frank Fody, due to the shenanigans on pit road, have fallen back.
So Jess Story, we don't necessarily have to cut back to this, but he got kind of shoved into the wall, and it's now out of that group with Gerald Campbell, and actually has fallen even behind the Ray Bracey, Nick Massey, Johnny Thomas group.
So that didn't work for those guys either.
No, that diffused that. Gerald Campbell's got to be able to hook up with that trio pretty quickly, because they're going to catch him right about meow, and they're probably going to blow by him like he's tied to a boat.
That is about how this next gen car works. Is you're either, as we watch, there they go, you're either driving the car really fast and you got the momentum wound up and everything's good, or you've stopped and you've lost 10 spots in one corner because you're all of a sudden driving a, you got paddles out there and you're going upstream in your boat. It's just not effective for whatever reason. The side draft's so strong on this car, very easy to slow down other cars and kind of manipulate them. So up in the lead, Jonathan Cutlip dropped down to get some draft from behind Caleb Pecumer as they put him a lap down. That's shuffling up this front pack ever so slightly. Tyler Fode's pushing Jake Scarborough up the top with 4 laps to go. I don't know if they're going to be able to make any passes on this front group, especially while Cutlip and Hogan are so tightly knit together. But Scarborough's got to do something because Hogan is currently in that transfer spot.
Yeah, you're right. Jake Scarborough has to do something, but I don't know what he can do because, I mean, there's just so few cars up there to even try to make something happen. And, man, this is going to be a tough situation here for Jake Scarborough. And what do you do here if you're Tyler Fode?
Well, if I'm Tyler Fode, I think I want to try and pull Hogan out of the race. I know Garrison Hogan's a Daytona 500 winner. It's a competitor that if you can keep him on the sidelines, that's a gamer's move right there. You do what you can to keep Hogan out of the race. So I'm probably committing to Scarborough, communicating with, he's got Brian Gable, Scott Crump, some of those guys. I'm going to talk to them and say, hey, tell Scarborough and his spotter I'm going with him. And here comes Hogan to block Scarborough. So here goes Scarborough to the bottom. There you go. Now Cutlip goes to the top, but now Fode is now behind Garrison Hogan. And now Matthew Weeks is behind Scarborough. I don't think Weeks is going to push Scarborough.
Boy, doesn't look like a huge push there.
Nope.
So now Scarborough has to drop in behind Fode.
Now that deal continues, right? If you're Scarborough, you shove the heck out of Tyler Fode and say, Fode, take me to the promised land. You go win the race. I'll finish second, but I'll be in the 500. White flag coming up.
White flag in the air this time by. It's going to be a race back to the line no matter what happens with this front 5. Jonathan Cutlip leading the way. Garrison Hogan in second. The top open competitor looking to stay in front of that 77 of Jake Scarborough. And Garrison Hogan, I think this is his best move right here. He has got to latch on to Jonathan Cutlip and push those 2 cars out as far as they can. And I think Jake Scarborough's got to be thinking the same thing with Tyler Fode.
Here comes Fode to the top. Cutlip with a big block.
Oh, contact!
Hogan to block.
It's
Fode down to the
line.
bottom. Oh, and Fode takes out Matthew Weeks. A hard crash into turn 3. Scarborough right into Cutlip. Scarborough, Cutlip, and Hogan are wrecking. Where's Johnny Thomas? Scarborough's leading. Scarborough's coming to the line. Where's Johnny Thomas? Johnny, Nick, and Ray are coming through. It's going to be Jake Scarborough who wins the duel. Johnny Thomas is going to finish second. Bracey third. Massey fourth. Hogan fifth. A wild conclusion to the duel where everybody in the top 5 wrecked each other on the final lap. And Scarborough wins the duel, and he'll make it.
I will be very curious to hear if there will be a ruling on that.
He did kind of just wreck Jonathan Cutlip down to turn 3 there.
We will see how that plays out in the officials' room. We're taking a look at the replay now, of course.
This is the replay of that last lap. So Hogan pushed Cutlip out, and you said, "Oh, I think this is a good move." I was sitting there thinking, I think Fode's going to back up to Scarborough and get a really big push. What happens is Fode goes to the top. Hogan blocks. Fode cuts back to the bottom. When he does that, he cuts into Hogan a little bit, and it sends him sideways. But Fode had such a big run, he winds up below Jonathan Cutlip, which sends Fode into the grass. Now, at this point, Fode's completely out of control. I don't think him coming up here into Weeks, I don't think there's anything he could have done after getting into that spot. So that sends him up into Weeks, takes the 2 of them out of this race. Now, Scarborough's got to make a move on that 55 car, so he heads to the bottom, I think, to push in behind Jonathan Cutlip. But in so doing, misjudges it, clips the 5 car in the right rear quarter panel right there, and sends it into the 55, which spins it out. They go careening. I mean, I'd probably give Scarborough a tally, but to my understanding, the tally system is the first tally is a warning. Scarborough gets the warning, he gets the slap on the wrist, but he also gets the race win, right?
You've interviewed Championship 4 drivers after a situation like that at Westergreen.
Sure
you know the answer to that question isn't that simple, my friend.
It is not, but this isn't a championship. This is a racing into the Daytona 500, doing what you can, so I understand it. It's not an easy spot for new race control Shea Mitchell to be in right here. I think I've stated what I would do. I'd hand the tally to Scarborough, but hand the win to him because, I mean, this is the duel. You're doing what you can to win the 500. Don't wreck people again, because that's how it works. But hey, I mean, we're still waiting for ruling. I don't know how that'll go over. We'll have to see.
Well, as it stands now, Jake Scarborough, you're winner of duel number 2, and thus taking part in next week's Rev Limit Workshop Daytona 500.
Should we bring up Shea Mitchell? So let's hear what Shea's.
No, we should not bring. No, we should not bring up Shea Mitchell.
Oh, okay. Let's throw it a break then.
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked, NASCAR delivered. On Saturday, September 6, 2025, the magic is back. The track that launched the legendary careers of Harvick, Busch, Keselowski, Edwards, and Earnhardt Jr. is now ready to write that next chapter. We're going to introduce you to a new crop of future champions and Hall of Famers. And in the process, we'll create more of the greatest moments in racing history. NASCAR Weekend 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs, the Confluence Music Festival, and now 250 miles of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 2 incredible races, 1 challenging track, a 3-day party of epic proportions. Go to WWTRaceway.com and lock in your weekend racing and camping packages for as little as $20.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge-of-your-seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs are coming. Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Welcome back. We have our results. It is Jake Scarborough, the official winner of Duel 2. Johnny Thomas will be second. Ray Bracey will be third. Let's talk to the South Shore driver, Ray Bracey, once again. Second time tonight. Started P1, finished P3, Ray. A little bit of a good fortune to get that top 3 result, but you're up here nonetheless with us. How about that?
Yeah, our little pit strategy almost worked out. We needed like 1 or 2 more cars to come down, but it almost worked. But I was happy with the top 10 at that point. Once I realized like the last 10 laps, and I was like, maybe there'll be some chaos up the front, and then sure enough, there was. So Chris was spotting for us, and he's like, "There's a car stopped on turn 3." He's like, "What?" And then I look in my rear, and poor Gerald got demolished by he hit Fody, and after that I was like, oh, we might have a chance at this. So just me, Nick, and Johnny T just pushing away. That was really fun, and I got to lead a lot of laps early on, so that was also a lot of fun. That was pretty much an ideal Daytona race for me, honestly. I can't complain at all.
Well, talking about working with Chris Wright, Nick Massey, I mentioned it a little bit during this second duel, but after kind of being a lone wolf in the South Shore Cup operation last season, it has to be a huge benefit to be able to talk to those guys during the duel and next week in the 500 as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an eye opener of like strategies and what to do. And Nick said it really helped him learn how to really push properly. And I like this pit strategy. I still need to work on like my pit entry. I think that cost me a tiny bit, but ultimately, I that was just all a net positive in terms of result, in terms of what we learned, and all the South Shore guys. Like I was there for both races. We were helping each other the whole time, and like it's a good little team we got going on. It's a bunch of people I've never really raced with properly before, but it's going to be a good season if it's like this.
That's awesome to hear, man. And, I guess my question is, you led laps in this race. You kind of learned what to do and what not to do, I think, in terms of, pit strategy, in terms of, pit entry and maybe holding the bottom when the cars get up alongside you on the outside. But, what can you take from a race that was like this other than maybe, hey, you've got really good teammates to work with?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the teammates are really great, as you said. Just a lot of learning. Like I'm constantly asking questions, like which feels weird as the leader. It's like constantly just asking, what should I do? What should I do? And I learned the side drafting technique. Chris was telling me on the fly, and then we're just learning about how to push properly the ideal amount. Like unfortunately, they stopped racing each other once they realized what we were doing. Which is pretty smart on their end. So they decided to go fast to keep up with that. But yeah, I mean, it's all great and all, but just like the lead pack shown, it can sometimes just come down to dumb luck as well. So you just want to be able to capture a little bit of skill and both, or skill and luck to really do it. Checkers or wreckers, as they say. Yeah. Did I even answer a question? I don't even know. I'm just kind of blabbing. I'm just happy.
No, that was great. That was great. Before we let you go, Ray, shout outs on the pole / third place in duel number 2 effort tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. Once again, South Shore, they're all great guys, as I mentioned. Shout out to my wife, who I love so much. Shout out to my cat, Pushkin, who's on the side of the car because I don't have a real sponsor. So. Shout out to all the people who enjoy my silly paint schemes. I guess I do more serious ones now, but yeah, and if you'd like a paint scheme, just let me know. Look at that plug. Seamless.
Perfect.
You're a professional already.
Yep.
All right. Now get out of here and get ready for next week. How's that sound, Ray?
Sounds great.
All right. Ray Bracey, third place tonight in old duel number 2. And we'll go to our second place finisher in duel number 2, Johnny Thomas, former Daytona 500 winner. And Johnny, you went from, here's an interesting pit strategy. It didn't quite work how we hoped. Oh,
Yeah, for
well, the
sure.
big pack kind of tangled up on pit road, and now they're wrecking on the last lap? What all was going through your mind during all of that?
Let's go back to the pit strategy. That was pretty rough, wasn't it? I just followed orders thinking that, 7, 8 cars were going to come down with us, according to Chris Wright. Like, what a horrible move and call by him. I'm never going to listen to him again for any calls. I mean, hopefully he'll be racing in the Cup Series, so I won't have to listen to his crew chief calls. But man, that was horrible. When I saw Ray and Nick just pull in behind me, well, first off, they're like, Fode's coming in, and this guy's coming in, this guy's coming in, and then I exit turn 4, and nobody's coming in, and I'm like, I just slam on the brakes. You see the smoke flying in the rear. I thought I was going to be speeding. It was a miserable experience. But other than that, Nick helped me out, and we pushed for what we could. I knew we were going to be 4 or 5 seconds off the lead pack once pit stops resumed. And yeah, those guys were, I wish they would have wrecked with like 2 to go. And then I might have had a chance to win, but then they almost all wrecked. So then I thought I could win. Jake ended up getting the win, which was good for him. But yeah, starting speed weeks off, I learned a lot being up front. These next gen cars, man, at plate tracks, I feel like I've had a really good advantage on plate tracks in all different cars except this one. I cannot get a grasp on it, but being up front during these events helps me learn what the other guys are doing, and I learned a lot this race just in like the 10 laps that I was up there, the first 10 laps. So a little bit more confident going into next Wednesday, but there's still a lot to learn. So we'll see what happens. Good start though.
Yeah, Johnny. I mean, you playoff driver each of the last 2 seasons, and you won one a couple of seasons ago. But for that Daytona 500, you are a prior winner of that race. Any shot next week, you're thinking, hey, I might have a chance here as long as you obviously stay on the right pit strategy. But you're going to be rolling from pretty high up in the top 10 here, probably P6. So pretty good starting spot.
Yeah, had good speed in qualifying. Obviously, second place here is going to be pretty good starting spot for Wednesday. It's all about positioning yourself for the end. You don't want to be 15th or 20th with 10 laps to go because you're going to get a green white checkered and you're going to be stuck in the field. So my goal is to be somewhere in the top 5 or 10, with 10 to go, and hope to have friends. That's the biggest thing is having 5 or 6 guys. You look through Discord and it's a team of 8 and a team of 10, and it's just me and Hanshaw, man. So I feel like I have a good relationship with a lot of these guys, but when it comes to Daytona 500, they're gonna go with their teammates. So that is a tricky battle that we face. So I'm going to be going through the list. Hanshaw's going to be going through the list, and we'll try to get some pseudo teammates to help us out, and maybe I'll get Daytona 500 number 2, which would be really really sweet.
Well, you might have made some friends tonight if you were working with Ray and Nick. Seemed like you guys all work pretty well together. So maybe it's the South Shore guys you can work with, huh?
Perfect. Yeah, I've always had a good relationship, obviously, with Nick, and Nick joining South Shore with Ray. Shouldn't be too bad. It should be a fun experience with you guys in the Ford camp. So should be fun.
And before we let you go, let's hear those shout outs before after a second place run in the first race-ish of the Belly Up Sports Cup season.
Yeah, I'll be quick. Shout out to Belly Up Sports for sponsoring, being on board again for the Elite Racing League, the Cup Series. Hanshaw, we're going to have fun this year. It's just going to be a fun year. Hopefully we get in victory lane at least once or twice. Everybody watching at home, I know families watching. Dad's probably watching, so that's pretty cool. And then you guys put on this broadcast. We're going to have fun come Wednesday. It should be a good show.
All right, that's Johnny Thomas. Looking for another Daytona 500 win next week. Good luck and have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.
And on that note, let's go straight to our winner tonight, Jake Scarborough, car 77, racing his way into the Daytona 500 with the win. And Jake, first, of course, we've got to ask, walk us through that last lap on your perspective.
Oh, jeez. I knew it was going to come down to just the two of us. Fody had told me that he was going to help me out, at least when we got to the last few laps after the pit cycles. He messaged me saying he was going to help, and then I ended up getting behind him. Luckily, me and him have pushed together in the past just by coincidence, so there was some familiarness with how we were going to work, but everything just kind of happened entering 3, and I cut the throttle trying to get behind the 5, misjudged it, ended up hooking him, and just had to hope I didn't wreck it myself there. I don't know. I'm just kind of at a loss for words with all of it.
Well, Jake, this is what, your second Daytona 500?
Yes.
So if with that, you've got the experience of finishing in the top 10 in the last time. What can you do differently, I think, going into the actual race next week?
Well, with last season, it was obviously starting, tail end of the field, but now we're starting higher up. So just got to hope that I can stay up there. I think it's going to be a lot different because I'm starting up there and not having to carve my way slowly through the field, trying to be patient. I can just kind of hang out here and there, just avoid the incidents, I guess, and try to be there in the end for a win, and hopefully it doesn't end the way this duel ended in terms of, well, the incident.
Well, nevertheless, you are racing next week. You will be starting 4th in the Daytona 500. And before we let you go and you get to prepare for the next week, let's get those shout-outs on this effort tonight.
Special thanks to Cameron Rich for spotting for me tonight. Thanks to all the guys at Redux Racing. They were watching the entire time. Burning Rubber Entertainment, everyone involved with that, Redux Racing Photography, 3Wide TV for hopping on, running a special scheme for the 500 with the American Red Cross donation link for all the LA fires. I felt like as the one of the Californians in the field, running a scheme like that, just kind of push efforts out there. Giant QR code on the hood, scan that, sends you to the donation page to just help out with the LA fires. So aside from that, a bunch of other people involved, but we're just going to try moving forward.
All right, there you have it. Jake Scarborough, winner tonight in duel number 2, and he'll be racing in the Rev Limit Workshop Daytona 500 next week. Jake, have a good night, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And on that note, David, any final words before we turn in for the night and start looking ahead to the Daytona 500? Because you're stuck with me next week.
I am, but it's not stuck. I'm excited to be with you, and that's kind of the advantage of doing this announcing thing, and also making an attempt for something like that. Is I have the fallback of getting to watch with you guys and talk about that race next week, and I'm excited for it. It's going to be a great time. If tonight was any indication, this race is going to be wild, and we get a glimpse of Gerald getting flipped into the catch fence to end it. The way this car drafts, I don't think we're going to know who wins that race, just like we did in this duel too, until maybe several minutes after the checker flag. So it's going to be a wild one.
Well, I mean, look, Gerald made a very obvious mistake here, and it's that if you're going to put an eagle on your race car, you can't be surprised when the eagle tries to fly.
That's right.
Donald wants to be out of Daytona, and honestly, after about 4.5 hours of broadcasting here, I think me and Dave Huckleberry are about ready to be out of here too. So on behalf of David Westergreen, Dave Huckleberry, thank y'all for tuning in tonight. We will see you in 1 week's time, 12th running of the Rev Limit Workshop Daytona 500 here in the Elite Cup Series. Of course, Speed Week's rolling on all week long, and the other NASCAR series as well. Be sure to catch all of it here on the Elite Racing Network. Until then, have a good night, and we will see you next time.